What's going on, everybody? This is Nick with Warriors Next Venture Podcast. Got my buddy Paul here, and we got Chucky, who's been wreaking havoc today. So you guys get to enjoy a little bit of autism today. It's a lot of fun. Yay. So just want to say thank you guys for listening and supporting us through all this time. We've been around for about 3 years. We started doing podcasts about 3 years ago, and the first episode I watched yesterday, it was atrocious. So it's really nice to actually have decent equipment now. Just want to say thanks to Rise and Warrior Coffee. Go over to Rise and Warrior Coffee. The link is in the comments, and you can actually get a Warriors Next Adventure salted caramel blend because I like salted caramel, and fuck you if you don't. Go check out some of their other stuff. They have a lot of really good coffee. I've tried 2 of their blends. The hazelnut's pretty good too. And also thank you to St. Croix Custom Furniture for supplying us with all of this podcast equipment. We had a really bad podcast one day, and he's like, Nick, just buy new stuff. I'm like, I can't just buy new stuff. And he's like, give me a list of everything you need. And I did. And he's like, okay, here's a check. So we got new equipment, which is nice. So again, just thank you guys for checking us out. If you guys want to donate to Warriors Next Adventure, we run just off of donations. We can do a lot with a little, but donations make it a lot easier for us to do what we need to do. So Paul, how are you?
Great. How are you?
Yeah. So Paul and I, we met through our sisters. Your younger sister, my older sister were friends, and my birth mom didn't really like when I was home alone, so she would send me with Brittany, and I would go down in the basement and play Donkey Kong with you, man.
I don't think anyone likes you home alone today.
I know, it's true.
If we're being honest,
I get in trouble. I do bad things.
But yeah, I mean, everybody should have a certain level of supervision, including you.
Pull us over a little bit more.
All right, how's that?
There you go. These microphones are a little weird. You got to get used to it, but I have no problem telling people, like, you fish yourself, man. Just get it close.
Oh, that's what it's kind of uncomfortable.
I know. I like making people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So Paul actually came over, and we had been talking about he wants to learn how to do podcast. It's pretty simple to get started. And I figured what we would do is we got a lot more to talk about than just podcasting. But I figured, why don't you just come over and let's do a podcast about podcasting. And it would make life a lot simpler. So like there's many different ways to get started. There's plenty of people out there who have reached out to me talking about like, how do I start a podcast? And I think I've helped start like 15 of them. I lost count. So it's as simple as just buying an external audio interface. There's other ways to do it, but if you want good audio, and that's the one thing that a lot of people say about our podcast is we have good audio. It's because we spent the fucking money on good microphones and good system.
Right.
So if you're going to have the SM7B microphones, the downfall is you need amplification, and that's what the cloud lifters are for. Hold on.
Grab one. Since you're grabbing this while we're talking about it, I just had one quick question. Am I the first civilian guest that you've had? I
think so.
Okay, so first of all, we should celebrate that. Because I got to be cool to be, invited to be the first, I pride myself on being a pretty cool civilian. So thanks for having me there. But the other question I would have for you, just because I suck at this, is there a place that when you do a podcast like this, you can post the hardware and software afterwards for like an easy video?
Yeah. Well, so what I'll do is I'll post it in the comments. So everybody, I can literally give you everything that we use. I can give people the bigger system. Like we have the 18i8. Anybody can get started with like a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2, right? It's just the 2 plug, that's it. 2 microphones. That's all you really need. So if you want to get started, you just get a 2i2, get 2, you get, the XLR cables and then a microphone. You can even get like a basic Shure. I'm going to show some stuff off here. So I was talking about the cloud lifter, right? So you need something like this. This helps amplify the sound on the SM7B. So the wire goes into the external audio interface, and it goes out into the cloud lifter, and then from the cloud lifter to the microphone. It gives it a little bit more amplification, but it also needs 48 volts of power. So this system has the internal 48 volt power system. So that's the important thing. Some microphones you need to buy an external amplifier, which is annoying because that's another plug you got to use, So that's why I like to spend a little bit more money and get the ones with the 48 volts inside. Even if you don't need it, you might upgrade microphones. So it's always good to have like the good shit, right? So this is just your basic. This one's what is that? A PV? I don't even know what that is. This is a Shure. So this is a basic Shure dynamic microphone, right? So a dynamic microphone, it picks up less audio, but you got to be closer to the mic. Like SM7Bs, it's a dynamic microphone. That's why you got to be so close. You ever listen to? Do you know who Bones Owens is?
No.
You ever listen to like some like kind of it's like country rock mix, and it's kind of got like a old school sound to the microphone when they're singing.
Yeah.
And it kind of like has a little bit of echo. Oh, Charlie likes to talk too. So a condensed microphone picks up a little bit more, but it's got like that old timey kind of the audio is just a little different, right? So this is super clear. That's the best part about the dynamic microphones. So like anything like this is like, I think I paid $60 for this, which was fine. And it worked for quite some time. And then eventually I'm just like, you know what, screw it. I want some good stuff. The SM7B is about $300. So it's an expensive microphone. Like I said, thank you to St. Croix Custom Furniture, because he bought us 3 SM7Bs. These boom mic, I don't really like these. I might go back to the original, like floor stand boom mics, because these are nice, but they're just not super sturdy, and the clamp for the table is kind of weak. So I might actually weld some new clamps. So Chucky's trying to be a superstar today. Yeah, it's that simple. And then the XLR cables, it doesn't really, you don't have to go spend a shitload of money on a nice XLR cable. You could, like, these were, I think, $30 for 6 of them. So it's really not that much. But in order to get started, I would say the 2i2 is probably, which is the external audio interface, like $150. So like realistically, if you wanted a decent microphone, decent audio, you need like a dynamic mic, $50, XLR cables, like $15, basic stand. I would get something like this, but you need something heavy. The problem is these microphones are heavy as shit. So if you don't have a counterbalance and you don't have a really good system to actually lock it down properly, this shit's gonna fall over. So
you're gonna look totally squad fumbling through everything.
And also something too, so people can kind of see this piece right here. This is where this part screws into here, right? But one of the best things to do is put Teflon tape in there, because it's a fine thread, which is kind of stupid because it doesn't hold very well. And I think within 2 weeks of me getting this stand, it fucking broke. So I had to put Teflon on it, and now it works. So, but yeah, it's really that simple. It's not that hard. Yeah. And then when it comes to like streaming services and distribution platforms, which is Libsyn, like I was just showing you,
right? Which,
by the way, the last episode that I did with Chad is on Spotify, iHeartRadio. You can find this podcast pretty much anywhere. Celebrate. I'm going to basic 49 years ago, June 11th. Damn, Mitch, you're old. Just kidding. Mitch is a vet I met. He lives over in like by the VA and shit. That's a long time ago. I went to basic 2006, October 2006. I've been out for 10 years, man.
It's crazy. I remember when you were getting in.
Little closer.
Oh, I remember when you were getting in and making the decision to join and serve, and
I didn't know what the fuck to do, man. I was hanging out with people that were getting into drugs and drinking too much, and I was only 18, and right. I was like, if I keep doing this, I'm not going to go down a good road.
It's crazy because, we're having my daughter's grad party this Friday, so that
calm down, Chuck.
That she's that age too, where you were, and I'm thinking about her and where she is and where we're at today nowadays with everything, and I don't know what to tell her to do, but I don't know if the military would be my number one choice as a dad of a daughter to say, hey, you're not sure what you're gonna do, why don't you enlist?
Yeah.
And see where you are in 4 years.
Somebody I know pretty close just decided to join the Air Force, and the thing is to the thing is, like, you got to think about, like, what do you want in life, right? The beauty of like the Air Force, right? The Air Force is fairly safe, unless you're like a combat controller or like security forces. You're not going to get deployed that much. Sorry guys, Chuck's having a great day today. But the Air Force is fairly safe. Even if you deploy with the Air Force, you're still going to be like in UAE or somewhere fairly safe, unless you're security forces. So I wanted to deploy. I wanted to be a 50 cal gunner. All the shit that I did is because I wanted to do it. But the Air Force is fairly safe, and it's actually really smart because not only education purposes, but also travel and just getting out there and seeing the world, but also getting the discipline that you need too, because I think that's probably the best thing I got from the military is like learning how to, just be disciplined and not eat like absolute garbage all the time. Even though I ate like absolute garbage while I was skinny fat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've
watched you eat several times.
Yeah, I love food, man. The only reason I'm not fat is because I don't want my girlfriend to leave me. So yeah, I gotta stay in good shape. Which you, by the way, have lost a shitload of weight, man.
Yeah. I think I stopped counting, but it's in total about 150 pounds.
Man,
over 6 years now that I kept it off. And Liz is my wife, but we were talking the other day and we were laughing because when I went in and was getting a physical and like the doctor's appointment that stirred it up as the doctor actually looked at me and he said, "You have a diabetic body." And I was like, "What the fuck does that mean?" Like, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, are you allowed to call me that as part of HIPAA?" And I guess he can call me whatever he wants to my face as part of HIPAA. He just can't tell other people what he called me, I guess, is how that works. But yeah, no, I mean, you'd have somebody look at you and kind of smirk and tell you have a body that has a medical condition. I mean,
yeah. Well, is that kind of what kicked you in the nuts to really turn it around? Or
well, no, it was a mixture of like, at that stage I have 3 kids. Izzy's graduating, Jay's 15 now, and Teddy's 10.
Jay's 15?
Yeah, and he's the same size as me right now. Yeah.
Man, I haven't seen him in like a year or two.
Yeah. So wait till you see him. It'll be funny. Yeah. And Teddy's sprouting up too.
How old is Teddy again?
10.
10?
Just turned 10 at the end of May. So, I think for me, as it was kind of like a parenting thing as a dad, is I was like, man, I'm feeling as shitty as a parent as I feel as just like a human, because it was hard to get up. It was, when you get out of breath from standing up, it like starts to weigh on you mentally too. And then you just go the wrong way. Yeah. It's like, as somebody who's, and I've done this several times. Like I lost 150 pounds and then I gained 220 back. And then so at this stage I've, like every time I've had to start over, it was starting over from a worse position, because you let that cheat week go on to like 2 cheat weeks. Cause you're like, this time I'm really doing it. I did it last time. I know I'm going to lose 170 this time. I'm going to do it. Yeah. I'm gonna eat Domino's 6 days this week. It's gonna be cool because on the 7th day I'm starting over. It's good, And
the next thing you know, 6 weeks go by. You're like, "Fuck, I'm still doing this."
Yeah, and then you're like, the old Chris Farley episodes where he's it's Baker's dozen there. Yeah, no, it's crazy because I think it's an addiction, Yeah. And that's another thing we could probably get into pretty easily too. But
yeah, I mean, we're actually airing on Warrior Recovery Network. And what do you say? Call Wes before you buy something. Shut up, Dan. But Warrior Recovery Network is a program that Andy, one of my vets, started. It's a Facebook group for now. And so we have a bunch of different people on there who are essentially trying to help other veterans get out of like, shitty spots. But eating addiction is something we haven't really talked about yet. Mara knows I'm an emotional eater. And if I didn't work out, I'd be fucking 300 pounds, because I'll get to the point where, when we have an argument, she no eating, she's nothing for like a day. And then I'm like, I need a whole pizza and some fucking chicken wings, and I'm going to eat all that shit. And I do it. And it's like, I just feel like absolute garbage afterwards.
So, well, stop for 1 second too and let yourself think that like feelings affect appetite. That's something like, not to go into like the mental health area, but I've, just with losing weight, your own personal image, watching yourself get thinner or skinnier or, losing weight. And then I know.
There you go.
It felt weird when it's in front of my face, but then when you're like holding it
and it's
like
black
going
too,
like this too,
going like, it's like a cock.
So anyway, I think my ADHD just flared up, or I just blocked that out. I'm not sure. But no, like the mental health side of it with everything that we're talking about, which, you know, is important, I think, to everybody.
Yeah.
But, you know, I didn't realize that when I would lose weight, although I would like feel better, I would actually lose self-esteem because I'm used to being the fat guy that people are staring at like a beached whale. And now I actually have people that are, you know, Liz told me one time in Vegas that some like 25-year-old girl came by with her friend and they're like, check out that dude. And she's like, what's up with, and I'm like, they weren't talking about me. She's like, yes, they were. And I'm like, no, they weren't. There's no way they could have been talking about me. Right? So like, but that's the mindset you have, right? Like you just convince yourself that this is what you look like. And then when you get people even looking at you, it's like, what the fuck are you looking at?
Oh yeah.
You know,
I had similar issues too. Like a lot of people, I've shared a lot of my fucked up stories on this podcast, but like, I don't think you ever met Donnie, the piece of shit that that Linnea married back in the day. He's the one out in Delano, but like he would hold me down and slap me around and call me an ugly little faggot and say I was fucking worthless piece of shit. And like, I had no self-confidence until I joined the military, like none. And I thought I was ugly as fuck because everyone told me I was the ugly little kid. Was that? Good. Fuck you, Josh.
Is this a show about honesty or feelings? Because I feel like I need to be honest with you right now and tell you that Donnie might have been honest.
Fuck you.
No. Without the slapping. Just ugly. You're ugly.
But yeah, like it was weird because like when I get into high school and everything, like I still think I was like, oh, no girl thinks I'm attractive at all. I'm the fucking ugly kid. And I was the ugly kid up until I was 25, 30.
And then you mix in on top of that too that you used to trip over the blue line anytime your skates were on. It's like you put this combination together and it's like, where the fuck am I right now?
I was not good at hockey.
It was like, you remember the Mighty Ducks when like Luis Mendoza couldn't stop and they put the cans up? Nick's team didn't put the cans up. He just fucking hit the boards every time. That's where you got your neck issue from, I think. I'm sorry. Anyway, back to this.
You're not wrong, man. I mean, that's why like later on in high school, I became a goon because like my dad's like, yeah, you're not great at hockey. You want to be a goon? I was like, what's that? He's like, just hit people for me. I'm like, fucking deal. Yeah. I was like, because I don't have to stop. I just run into people. But
I always wished I could have been that guy out there that could just like barely skate, but never carried a stick.
Yeah.
Just
hit people.
Yeah. And just the most ridiculous like skating form too. Just like looking like an absolute, goon robot out there would be great.
But yeah, no, when it comes to like the personal identity, like how we see ourselves, the shitty part is like, especially when it's beating you in childhood, I got to like my sophomore year or something like that. And a girl asked me out. I'm like, why? And she's like, why? Like, and then she walked away from me because she thought it was gross that I had like, she thought I was turning her down. When really I was just like, I'm fucking ugly. Like, I'm not, why would you fucking even look at me like that? Like, what is your problem? So I started to like actually give her shit because she was attracted to me. It's like, what are you doing? And it wasn't until a couple years ago, I was vacationing and I met up with an old friend and she straight up told me, she's like, most of my friends wanted to date you, but they were too scared to talk to you because you were kind of rude when girls would approach you. I was like, yeah, because I was fucking ugly. She's like, you're retarded. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And she's like, no, like the majority of the girls in our class wanted to date you, or at least, and I was just like, I didn't believe that. I still don't believe that, but then, look at my girlfriend now. She's fucking gorgeous. So it's like, okay, I finally let that go and started building my own confidence and it actually using jiu-jitsu, which I wore this shirt just for you. So like, read it out loud.
I wore this just for you.
The art of folding clothes with people still in them.
How about this one? How about this one right
Not today, Satan. But no, like it's jiu-jitsu really helped me with that, and that's kind of where our worlds crossed again. And you are actually a big reason. So I've never actually told this story.
A big reason. I thought you were going to say a big, and I was waiting for the second name to come. And I'm like, oh, we're getting back into the verbal jousting.
No, being honest here, like you were a big reason why I pulled out of my mental health spiral. Like, I don't know if you know that. I don't think I've ever told you. So Paul here is actually the one who introduced me to Mark. And Mark is like my father, obviously I love my dad, but like Mark's been a father to me and he's actually half the reason why I am who I am today.
Well, and if Mark's your father, you go through child abuse on a regular basis.
Yeah,
while he's laughing at you too.
Strangles me all the time.
But it's meant with love, right?
Yeah. I love you.
The worst one, he's like, when your vision starts to fade to black, and he goes,
is that a weird fucking laugh?
It is, and you know you're about to die.
But like seriously, man, like I owe a lot to who I am today to you, man. Like I don't know if you know that.
Well, I'm glad I made the introduction and then got to step out of it so I can take credit for it. And it was very like, I don't know. Maybe I was meant to be a quarterback and just hand shit off and let everybody do the work. But no, if I was involved some way, I'm just happy to do it.
You know? Dude, it was crazy. Like the day that you called me, you're like, hey, I got a friend who's an Air Force veteran. Like his brother works for Anytime Fitness, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. He's like, yeah, he trains jiu-jitsu, he's got his own gym. I'm like, oh fuck yeah. I was like, because a lot of people know, like, I started jiu-jitsu and MMA in the military.
In case this is heard though, I gotta say that I did specifically say that his brother founded Anytime. His brother was one of the founders of Anytime Fitness. Because if Dave hears this and he's like, you're gonna tell somebody that I worked there, like, did I report to you, Paul? And Dave's also somebody you don't want to mess with.
Yeah, I talked to Dave a few times with Mark on the phone. Me and Mark are supposed to go over there and hang out.
Yeah,
I haven't been over his house yet, but I heard it's fucking amazing.
I haven't either, but yeah,
not gonna talk about his shit.
Yeah,
but yeah, Dave is big part of how you progressed was actually because of Dave too.
Yeah. Phenomenal humans for sure.
And the job that you started doing. So between those two brothers, like they've had a big impact on both of us. So Mark was actually on episode 1 of Warriors Next Adventure podcast.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so he was the first one. So go back and listen to that. It's actually pretty good. I used a lot of that audio for the opening credits for the PTSD versus Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
So it's the trailer that I got out there, and yeah, it was great. But yeah, dude, I wouldn't have gotten back, and I don't think I would have gotten back into Jiu-Jitsu without you. And it literally is like part of my identity now.
Yeah, I think I first got you into bouncing, didn't I? Was I your first exposure into the nightclub scene?
Yeah, I was 17, and you had me working at Club Cancune. I totally forgot about that, dude. That was it was a little awkward, because I think I was 17, and I could only work in certain areas.
Yeah,
and then like
wristbands at first and coat check.
Yeah, I mean, I actually like that. There was one time, dude. I think it was you and who was it? Who's that really fucking big black dude that worked with us?
Leland.
I think so.
Leland, rest in peace. He passed a few years back. Yeah,
dude, he was fucking awesome.
Yeah, one of the
He fucked with me a lot, but like he was always really cool.
You know what's fun is when he would throw you, like, and I was big at the time, and he would throw
than you,
like, and it was, he like shot put tossed humans for fun. Like he'd be like, hey, how are you? Boop, and that's that's how I was inspired to play catch with my kids in the pool, is the way I used to see Leland throw people around Club Cancune when he needed to.
Well, it was cool because like I worked at the front door. And I can't remember if you got there first or Leland got there first, but there was some big dude, and he was trying to walk in, and I was 17, right? I wasn't small. I was like 6'1" or so, but I was maybe 100. I was 150 pounds, and I hit 160 pounds my senior year. Yeah. And I thought I was like getting big,
and that was after Italian Dunker Day too, so it was like 2 fake pounds at least.
And dude, this guy, I was like, you need to leave. He's like, I ain't leaving. Fuck you gonna do about it? I'm like, oh shit. I was like, can I get some help up front? Leland walks up, and the guy's like, all right, I'll wait outside.
Yeah,
I was like,
that was nice.
It saved my ass a few times, man.
Yeah.
And then we worked there only a couple months, and then I think Cancun shut down.
Yeah, that was definitely towards the end.
Jameson, I think, was the owner, wasn't he? Or this?
No, Jameson was the GM.
Okay.
Of that one and ran it, and then Jared was like the regional guy that oversaw like the group of 4 nightclubs, because the stories I'm not even going to get into those stories today or probably ever. I think those need to be left unsaid in case I ever run for office. But no, it was a good time. Some of the best people I ever met. Still friends with a ton of those dudes on Facebook, and everybody seems to be doing great. I'm just glad none of us are in security anymore, because like I can't believe that I was willing to do that shit for $10 an hour and some clout back in the day, like
when I got out, I was working at Aqua and Epic Entertainment Center and shit like that. I left Epic like literally 2 weeks before the shooting, because I ended up getting fired for kicking a guy in the face, and I went full roadhouse on motherfuckers. Because when I got out, dude, like again, my story's out there, but I got deep into the club scene, like the shit that I didn't know about when I worked at Cancun.
Yeah.
And I was doing coke almost every night and then just beating the living shit out of people just because I wanted to. And it was not fucking healthy. You know, I almost got stabbed probably 3 or 4 times. I got fucking punched in the face randomly like 6 or 7 times. There's one time I threw this dude out. I put him in a guillotine and I picked him up and I tossed him down some steps out the back door over at Epic. And I just let the band out. Yellow Wolf was there. And I don't know what the guy's actual name is, but the singer for Yellow Wolf.
Is it Yellow?
I don't know.
Is that his first name?
I thought it was Yellow.
Mr. Wolf.
Mr. Wolf, yeah.
Yeah.
So I choked this dude out right in front of Yellow Wolf, and he's like, "Get him!" And I threw him out, and then Yellow Wolf and his fucking posse went out to Pizza Luce's to get some pizza. So I let him out and said, "Just knock when you get back. I'll let you back in." So he comes over, and next thing you know, fucking I hear a knock, and my dumb ass just goes like this, and as soon as I open the door, I get fucking punched right in the face. And so I'm like, God damn it. So I take because we had to dress real nice. When I was doing backstage for the singers, I'd wear like a nice suit. So I took my suit off, I folded it, set it down on the ground, I walked out into the alley. And I'm like, let's go, motherfucker. I was like, punch me in the face and run away. And so I chased after him and he tripped and I jumped on top of him. And I'm not going to get into details of what I did, but he didn't come back. And like right as I got up, like my hands were bleeding, my face was bleeding and shit. And I walked back in, and Yellow Wolf had just walked in with a bunch of pizza. He's like, "Man, you look fucked up." I'm like, you should see the other guy. He's laying in the alley. Like, "Oh, we thought that was a homeless dude." I'm like, "No, I just beat the shit out of him." He's like, "You want some pizza?" I'm like, "Hell yeah." So Yellow Wolf, thanks, man. You fed me. But
claim to fame.
I couldn't do that shit anymore though, man.
No, it doesn't even. Well, first of all, I don't stay up past 10 very often, so I can't like. I mean, I'd have to punch in and punch out, and be like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
Even when I was a bar back, I got there at like 6:00 p.m. at the latest, and it's just like not my favorite lifestyle. I don't. Is there like a ton of nightclubs in Minnesota anymore? Like not sports bars that change over because like.
Well, Aqua shut down too because there was a shooting. Or a stabbing, one of the two. The bouncers sucked. But still on First, there's still a lot of clubs.
Okay.
And then you have like Brothers, but that's really more
Didn't
of like
Brothers
a bar.
shut down?
If I went,
I thought they did. I don't know.
I guess I haven't been down there in 2 years.
Dude, I went downtown St. Paul yesterday for a engagement party, and the Liffey's not there. It's
Really?
Wild Bill's now.
Oh shit!
And I don't know how long that happened. Maybe I haven't been there in years, but
I don't know. Well, I know a lot of shit's been shutting down. It's not, especially since me and Mara have been together. Like it's not a life that we enjoy. I love staying at home on fucking like Friday nights or whatever and just watching a movie. That's the life I really enjoy.
I haven't left the house on New Year's Eve since I left the nightclub industry. Like I won't even go to Cub Foods. Like Liz is like, we need food, and I'm like, I don't leave the house on 12/31. Period.
So I actually got fired from Epic on New Year's Eve 2012 because I was trying to lead some guys out and they wouldn't go. It was 2 big dudes, and I was fighting MMA at the time too. So like I was a little fucking angry, and dealing with the whole situation with Cassie. Like I had a lot of shit on me just to piss me off. So it didn't take much to make me angry, and that was before I got in the whole blow situation too. So I was a little bit more level-headed, but somebody had been buying me drinks all night, so I was pretty toasty at that time.
Yeah.
And I dragged these guys out, and there's 2 steps to go out the double doors at Epic. And I grabbed one guy and I went to throw him down the steps. He tripped and fell and hit his head. And so the guy turned around and fucking just hooked me in the jaw, and he landed it pretty good. And so I picked him up and threw him. I just did kind of like a hip toss, threw him down the steps, and he hit the door. And so I walked down, I grabbed the other dude by the hair, and I went to drag him out. And as I did that, his friend came up and hit me again. And so I was fighting 2 guys. I get back up on the steps. One of the guys tries to stand up, and I teep kick him right in the face. And he actually rolled out the door because the door is still open. I was like, perfect. So I pushed the other guy out, shut the door, and I walked back in to go do my job. And 20 minutes later, I get a phone call to go up to the office, and they're like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? You're fired, motherfucker." Like, what? I was jumped by 2 dudes, and nobody came to help me. What the fuck you want me to do? Hug them?
It was a weird industry because it was like, depending on who was there, what night it was, what the crowd was like, what the situation was like.
Turn that light on.
Sometimes it was, I don't want to say celebrated, but sometimes you make a scene and it's like
Roadhouse,
not an issue.
man.
And then the next day a scene happens and everybody's like, I got to write you up. And it's like, well, I don't really understand what I'm supposed to do. Plus you got a bunch of idiots that are drinking for free with a bunch of testosterone that are pretty much there to try
fight
to fight people and pick up chicks.
Nobody bounces as a bouncer without knowing that they're gonna get in a fucking fight.
Well, I don't think anybody signs up for that job in a peaceful manner.
No.
One person, and Scott Nyberg is his name. Still a friend of mine. He's got a podcast too.
Oh, really?
Good dude, but he's like, I think Scott's like 6'4", big dude.
Yeah.
One of the nicest people in the world. I had him come to Club Cancune one time because
Didn't your dad work at Club Cancune with us sometimes?
No.
I swear I saw your dad there a few times.
No. I think he came in and like tried to hang out.
That might have been it. Which I think he came in one night and he was giving me shit.
Yeah. But what was I even just saying? I totally forgot. Scott. Oh yeah. So Scott, nicest guy in the world. And he came and I was just like, I just want you to stand behind me while I'm doing IDs at the front door. It was me, Jameson, and Scott.
Mm.
And Scott was even like, I don't even like standing here like this. This is weird. And that's kind of like when I started like to think about it a little bit more. And I was like, yeah, you're right. It is like, I don't want to stand up here and be the decision of who gets to come in and who doesn't.
Dude, that was the worst at Aqua. They wouldn't let Somalis in. So obviously they have a black guy at the door, which is great. But then they had me. And then anytime I had to turn a Somali around, I had to make up a fucking story. And like, oh, you're fucking racist. And I'm like, pretty much, yeah, because I have to fucking do it. And it's like, I feel like a fucking asshole. It's like, I don't like this shit.
Yeah.
So I asked actually to go out on the back patio. That was so much better.
I think probably the best short-term job I ever had is when you called me and you're like, hey, I need you to come to the Hmong house. You're gonna get $80 a night and the best meal you've ever had. So like,
dude, the Hmong house was the shit.
It was great. We would just literally stand. Did we even check IDs?
No.
Mm-mm. They literally just wanted us to stand in the doorway.
Stand in the doorway.
And you and I stood there all night and just had a conversation.
Yeah.
We didn't even look at anybody
for like
else.
6 hours.
And then we would just go get our food and our money and leave.
Yeah. It was amazing. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's all we did. And then not to mention we get like 1 or 2 meals a night and they bring us like pork belly and shit. Like, fuck yeah, awesome. Dude. You would plus all the Hmong, like, no offense, but all the Hmong people were like chest below. Like they were all super short.
Well, that's why we could stand in the doorway and have a conversation.
Yeah.
But it's
those guys were really nice too.
Amazing.
It was really nice.
Everybody was awesome. Mm-hmm. We were all in different spots too, right? So I think probably nowadays, if I was that age again, knowing what I know now, I probably wouldn't even go be a bouncer.
No.
Right. But you also don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. I think I needed the outrage, anger, because I was a fucking pizza delivery boy after being a 50 cal gunner in Afghanistan. Right. So my job was literally like save my boys so they don't fucking die. And I needed something like that. Like I needed to protect. And that's what I was. Like being a 50 cal gunner, you are essentially in charge of the security of your fucking team. Like you are the one that's going to save everybody. Excuse me. There's other ways too, but that's how I felt as a 50 gunner. Like these are my boys. I need to make sure everybody fucking comes home. And so I was delivering pizzas fucking 3 weeks after getting out of the military. And one of the first pizzas I delivered was to the old fucking high school quarterback. I felt like such a piece of shit. And dude, it was terrible. And he opens the door and I had a visor on. I just go like, oh, here you go. And I don't think he knew it was me because I had a beard and like I was, yeah. And I got back to the shop and I'm just like, I fucking hate my life. And I think it was 2 weeks after that, I got a job at Epic Entertainment Center. I'm like, I need some fucking anger release. And it was like a pseudo brotherhood, kind of. That was the best part about bouncing. You become really close with all the guys you bounce with because it's like you need to have each other's back.
Right.
Like everybody at Cancun, even though I was only there for like 2-3 months, everyone was super cool. When I worked at Hog's Breath, like that was like a fucking, like, we were like brothers. We go drink together afterwards. We go to each other's houses and hang out. Like, I think 3 of them were veterans. Like that was the best part.
I had some pretty badass bonfires back in the day.
Yeah.
Those after party ones.
Yeah, those were fun. And the cool thing was like I was 17. I can't believe my dad let me do that. Like my dad was super controlling and he still let me do it because I was with you.
Sorry, Brian.
And it's true too. Like I think about like this. I would never let my kid go be a bouncer after knowing what I know now. Like that's not a good life. Like you can meet good connections and there's different ways where you can network doing shit like that, but
Right.
it's almost never going to turn out good because by the end of the night, everyone's drunk.
Systematically too, like every generation of parents should be trying to do a little bit better for their kid, right? And I think that we have stories from where we had a tough childhood, and then if we have those conversations with our kids in 10 years and ask them what their toughest things in childhood were, it's going to be the toughest thing that they dealt with in childhood. But if we're gonna like compare it might they might be at like different scale levels.
Sure.
But I don't know that we should compare it either, because it's so I guess what I'm saying is like my kids should never fight like I fought, right? Like everything that I did, I should be learning from and doing better and bringing to them so they don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have to go fight people, but I saw that job as an opportunity at the time as my only opportunity. So I took it, and then you're kind of like stuck in it because you're not going to get up at 8 a.m. and go to a regular job when you work until 3 a.m. Right. Yeah. So then you're stuck, you're in the lifestyle, you start getting this clout and becoming this person, that people want to come up and high five. And then you get the $100 bill, from a football player for finding a parking spot, whatever. So it's like, you start to kind of like become this character.
Oh, dude, and I got to meet one of my fucking heroes. Like, I was Adrian Peterson's personal bodyguard. Like, me and 3 dudes at the poorhouse. Do you remember the game where he almost broke the rushing record? I think it was in the semifinals.
I'm a Lions fan, so if it was a playoff game, I'd been done watching football for that point since the playoffs started. So no, I didn't see that game.
Anyway, I got to sit right, like I was Adrian Peterson's shadow, and at the beginning of the day, he shook my hand, said what's up, and like we talked. I'm like, dude, you're the reason why I started watching football again. I was like, you're fucking awesome, man. I was like, I'm so happy to fucking meet you. I was like, I hope I don't have to choke anybody out in front of you. He's like, that'd actually be pretty cool. I'm like, I'm trying not to, but he was cool as fuck. Like, he tipped all of us $50. Yep. Like, he was just awesome.
Do you remember when we gave that NHL player a ride home in my minivan?
Wasn't he like a Canucks player?
Canadians.
I thought it was a Canucks.
It was Keith Desjardins at the time.
Yeah,
the Canadians were in town.
Dude, I forgot about
this.
This is
one of my funny. This is a story I'll tell. So Saturday night, super dead, Club Cancune. There's like 50 people in there.
What the fuck was he doing at Cancun though?
Well, they didn't. He's clearly not from here. So they probably searched it and looked up Club Cancune and came to check it out. So I'm working the door, it's dead, and this like limo service pulls up. These 2 guys get out in like full leather. They were wearing like black suits, black leather coats, hair slicked back, and they definitely had accents. I'm like, hey guys, how are you? And they're like, good. And we started talking, and I didn't get much information from them at the door, but they had stacks of cash. So when guys have stacks of cash, you just let them come in. So they come in, we talked a little bit more, and they kept coming outside the front door to smoke because it was so slow. So we let them do that. Normally we wouldn't let anybody go out the front door. So I got to talk with these guys a little bit more, and it turns out that it's Keith Desjardins and some other guy. They played the Wild the next day. It was like a 2:00 game, but they were out partying, and the cab service that I called them like closed for the night, and they didn't have the driver. So you were there working with me. I had a minivan at the time, and I think it was Izzy's car seat. So my 18-year-old was probably 2 at the time. So this is 16 years ago. So it's closing time. The guys were harmless, still didn't know who they were. So we let them sit at the bar and hang out. And then we dropped them off at the St. Paul Hotel in my minivan. So Keith Desjardins from the Canadians sat in Izzy's car seat. And I remember
he actually sat in the car seat too.
Yeah.
It was so funny because we were taking, I was like,
nah,
I'm
laughing.
good.
He's like, this is so funny. And it's like, yeah. That was
man, I totally forgot about that. Shit. It was fun though.
Well, Maggie was in the car, remember? And Maggie was like, my sister Maggie's a diehard Wild fan. So we're sitting there, and he's like, excuse the accent, Keith, if you're listening to this, but he's like, do you guys like hockey? And we're like, yeah, we fucking love hockey. This is Minnesota, bro. Like, who the fuck are you asking us if we like hockey? He's like, oh, I like hockey too. I play a little bit. And my sister's like, oh, great. Sorry. Is this your water right here?
Yeah, go ahead. I have herpes, but
I don't know. I just hope I don't catch the ugly that we were talking about earlier. But and then he's like, "Oh, do you guys like the Canadians?" And Maggie's like, "Fuck Canada, fuck the Canadians. We're Wild fans here." And then everyone's quiet, and I'm like, "Why do you ask?" And look in the mirror, he's like, "I play for the Canadians." He like puts his head down, like all ashamed, and then he
I can't believe I
asked us
forgot about this.
if he could set tickets up for us and everything, but we ended up not going. But it was just a cool experience.
Yeah, how funny is that? I had at Aqua, we had a bunch of football players who come down there all the time because Aqua actually was really nice, the bottle service and shit.
Yeah.
And Jerome Simpson, piece of shit, played for the Vikings, just a fucking asshole. Every single Saturday night, he'd come down there and he'd try to just walk in, right? And the owner of the club, nobody gets in without an ID. He's like, I don't give a fuck.
Were they trying to show their players cards too? Because they like to.
Yeah.
I remember that where I asked for ID and it's like, here's my player's card. It's like, I know you're a fucking football player, but like I have to also do my job a little bit.
Yeah. You know? Well, there was one night where Jerome Simpson tried to get in. I'm like, bro, I can't let you in. You don't have your ID tonight. He's like, man, you know who the fuck I am. I was like, I know who you are. I was like, but I can't let you in. I actually like this job. And he's like, man, fuck you. He pulls out $500 and throws it at my face. I'm like, you fucking asshole. I pick it up. I'm like, go ahead, bitch. Like, that's more money than I make in a month.
Yeah, you're like, fine, come on, come in.
Go ahead, dick. And then
I thought you were going to be like, and I threw it back at him, but then I'm like, no, Nick's not going to give this guy his money back.
No, I'd take that money. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Dick. But like one of the main things I did was I would actually, whenever there was somebody who had an issue, I'd be like, there's a patio in the back. Go around back. Let's talk. And so I go around back and we sit and chat. And I made so much fucking money sneaking people in. Like that's one thing that a lot of people don't really talk too much about in security. We're like, you don't make a lot of money. Like I was making, I think I was making $19 an hour, which is,
it was $10 an hour when I started.
Well,
we were happy to get that.
Yeah, I know, right? I was making 19 or something like that. And I'd go in the back and I'd make more money in one night than I would in a whole fucking month. So why the fuck would I not do that? What are they going to do? Fire you? And it's like, yeah, they tell you all the time, like, oh, you can't do that. It's illegal. We'll sue you. Blah, blah, blah. No, the fuck they won't.
Well, yeah, but then, and then you'll have a guy with an ID and then the manager will come down and make an exception for it right in front of you. And you'll see that transaction take place. Yep. And so, it
goes both ways.
A lot of stuff that we're doing, it's just like learned behavior that we see that we repeat.
Yeah. And a lot of times too, like, I don't remember what his name was, but he was a rookie for the Vikings. He tried to come in and he had like 3 people with him. And none of them had IDs. I'm like, what the fuck are you trying to do? Go in the club with no IDs, dude. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, go to the back. So they came around back and shit. I'm like, hey, man, like, I can it needs to be worth it for me to let you guys in. So he fucking pulls out $100 bill. I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's good enough. I was like, do me a favor. I was like, take my ID. Because what we did was we had, I think, $60 tab every night for all the bouncers. So if we had somebody who was like a friend of ours or like a person who we want to continue coming back, we give them our ID and they would go to the bar and they would get 2 free drinks on us. Okay. And so they go to the bar and he came back and actually bought me some shots. And I was like, oh, this was for you, dude. But okay. So I took a shot with him and I don't remember what his name was. I don't really watch football anymore, but I think he was with us for like 2 years. And then who's it? Percy Harvin. He was a fucking dick too. He was so rude to everybody, like the wait staff, and like he'd be grabbing the bottle service girls, like slapping their ass, and it's like just a fucking piece of shit. One stand-up guy though, fucking Adrian Peterson. He walked up to Jerome Simpson once in an after party, and Jerome Simpson was dry humping a chick over a pool table. And AP walked up to him and slapped him, and he's like, "What the fuck are you doing, man?" He's like, "There's cameras in here. Like people are in here. Get your shit together." I'm like, man, I know I love that guy.
Yeah.
Other than him beating his kid, but we all spank our kids. He went a little far.
Well, if but that's the thing, right? Like sit down and ask him questions and just be willing to listen on how he was punished and raised growing up, because the way that he was trying to raise his kids was what he thought was right. And whether we want to agree with it or not, it's you should never abuse a kid, right?
Yeah.
But he shouldn't have been abused, which was probably the way that he was punished. Like we were punished worse than our kids are punished nowadays. Are you kidding me?
No.
Like look,
I just have yoga balls and throw them at my kids when they're bugging me.
It's, it's safer on the house when they bounce off their face and everything,
I know, right?
But I don't know. I just,
and then they giggle.
We're so quick to add shit and not take away, right? Especially with their judgments. Like, let's add to it and pile on why we're going to think something about somebody, but we're never going to give them an opportunity to talk or listen or hear their side. We've never heard a side still.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think he ever came out and talked about it.
Yeah. But why would he?
Yeah.
Like he probably for himself personally might feel better, but
probably like a PR staff
50%. This is where we're at today. 50% of people disagree with you just because of your face,
because I'm white.
Yeah. Or not, or whatever.
That I'm ugly.
50% of the world disagrees with you just because you woke up today.
And that's just one subject too. Like,
right.
If it was your white, like, what if they disagree with you because you're a veteran, because you're white,
yeah,
right.
You're this.
Yeah. Well, Josh is saying like there's
no thing to say to that.
Right. So
exactly.
Here's an example, okay? And not to get this into a huge like,
dude, you want to zoom in, man? I could send you a link. You come up on your phone. All right. I'm gonna send. Josh has been here sitting on the couch. I'm gonna zoom him in. Sit over in the corner over here.
I don't want to get this into like a huge like topic that it doesn't need to get into, right? But Jeremiah,
where this podcast,
Jeremiah goes to school and he had something American flag on, right? Mm-hmm. There's American flag on it, and a student comes up to him and says, "Why are you wearing that?" And he said, "Because it's my country." Yeah. And she goes, "And you support that country?" And he said, "And you don't support it, but you're here." Right. So now these are kids, remember?
Yeah.
So we have polar opposites in high school kids already over the country's flag.
Yeah.
Where the fuck are we?
That's confusing to me.
It's confusing to me on so many levels, right? Just trying to think,
email, Josh.
Like just trying to think about why each one of those students, whether they're my kid or not, feels that way would be really, really interesting to hear before I jump in and start saying you're a fucking anti-patriot and you're awesome because you're my son and you like the flag. But what I would like to know is, can we all talk more about why we have these polar opposite feelings? Not to fucking change anybody's mind, but maybe have some better understanding, right? Like,
well, nobody wants to listen to anyone anymore. They want to just have an assumption and leave it at that. It drives me fucking insane. Like I said something along the lines of like, it's stressful for me to work with female veterans, and this girl lost her shit and wouldn't even let me finish what I was saying, right? And it's like, okay, you didn't let me explain why. Is because there's always going to be that dynamic of male female. It's always going to be there no matter what, right? I'm in a very happy relationship and I have to let girls know right at the beginning, just so you know, I'm in a great relationship. I'm happy. I'm never going to make a pass at you. So I want you to understand that when we talk to each other, it's because I give a shit about you because you're a veteran, and I already love you because you're a veteran. It's not going to go any farther than that. And then half the time I get girls that get fucking offended that I even assume that they would try to make a pass at me or I would make a pass at them. And then, it's just, it makes shit difficult. Right. So I'd like to have those conversations in the beginning, just to let them know, like, listen, I'm here for you, but like, that's where it stops, And so like, that causes a lot of issues sometimes. Bring Josh up here. What's up?
What's up?
Hey, Josh.
We're going to hear acting a little bit. I know, right? So, I'm going to mute you unless you have something to say.
Hey, let's get Josh on here. Josh, just so you know, you can't fucking say anything, and do me a favor and don't even make eye contact with me while I'm over here talking to my friend.
So, Josh, I actually want you to, I want you to elaborate on what you were saying a minute ago about like, people that disagree with you just because of like being a veteran and all that shit.
Yeah. So like, you just notice it like, so it depends on what you're talking about, right? Like if you enter a conversation with somebody and you're trying to have a debate or just see what they're talking about, you have this thing where they're already not listening to you because they assume that you have such an opinion because of the way you look or where you come from or what job you do or whatever.
You got a nice beard over there, you fucking righty. And you can tell that I'm from the left because my beard's so fucking patchy. right?
Is
Only
that how
real
it
men
works?
from the right have beards like you guys.
No, I'm definitely right in the middle.
Well, there's an assumption, right? Like I was making a comment earlier about how I'm like the first civilian on the show and how that means I'm just better than most other civilians because they haven't been accepted by the veteran community.
You into the group,
right?
Yeah.
So all you other fucking normies out there, take some notes. But
huge subject too. I was just talking about that with a couple other veteran friends. Is that is a real thing that veterans actually think about themselves. That we're different than we are, but you know what I mean. Like it means something.
But okay, so I'm from the outside looking in, right? So I might be able to say something that could either be awesome or be completely fucking offensive for you guys and everybody else, right? But like
the beautiful thing is like, between me, like Josh, and the majority of the vets that I hang out with, like I do my best to break down the difference because there is no difference between a veteran and a civilian. The only difference is the job that we chose. That's it. And there's a lot of vets that get pissed at me for saying that. I don't give a fuck. I'm proud of my service and I loved what I did and I had a good time, but I'm no different than you just because I joined the military and you didn't. You did a lot of shit that you help people with franchises. You're an entrepreneur. You're doing a lot of crazy shit that I don't do, and there's a lot of folks that tend to get to the point where they want to differentiate themselves from everybody else. Fucking stop it.
But also there's a reason why there's safety and security for people that are allowed to do those things too, that has to have some type of acknowledgement, right? Like we don't have hot wars on our fucking turf because we have the military that we have and the men and women that sign up to keep us safe and do that, right? So I feel a level of like respect and gratitude for all of our veterans. I look at it a little bit differently as well, and I've like everything that I don't understand, I have to study.
Yeah.
So we'll come back to like the mental health stuff because I've read like 50 books on mental health to become an expert ever since I've had my struggles with that.
That's why I've created Warriors Next Adventures, doing the work.
Doing
the work and studying, you can become great at something just by studying and doing the work. This is
you doing work right now that's allowing other people to benefit from it. And I think that anybody who's talking about doing a podcast, and I have for fucking years, and I'm really good at this, really good at running my mouth, and then I don't always follow through. So one of the reasons I'm here today is following through on, this and learning more. But like I'm looking at, so we're talking about the polar opposites in like our country on everything, right? So it starts out as like military civilian. That's one conflict, and then we have red and blue. Then we have right and left.
All
then
of
we
it's
have
just
black
us
and white,
versus them.
yellow and orange, whatever it is, right? So then you have your layers that come up within those topics of all these things and it's just from like, think about how many opinions we form visually on somebody before we even fucking smile.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right?
The prejudice is real. You're going to have prejudice against most people because of the experiences that you've had in the past.
Right. And that's so one of the things that I focused on purposely is it's two words that I've really been focusing on, and it's consistency and intent. So like, I want to be consistent in even my tone of voice today. I'm trying to be consistent, right? Like I don't want to get escalated and get too high or get too low. I want to be direct, right? But I want to do that as like a father to my kids. I want to do that as an employee for my employer, so the customers know who they're getting every time they call. Like, and if I can do that, then I can be consistent with my reactions, and then I can do anything I want to do with intent. But if we don't have the consistency of the schedule and the purpose and the drive, then we're not going to be able to do anything intentionally because we never had the purpose, right? So anyway, going backwards now, like when I'm looking at the military, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm trying to see the military as an employer. However, without knowing anything, like you can't put in so I'm looking at the military as an employer, right? But I also think that if the majority of the country is doing that and they don't take the steps to look at the employer that you can't put in a notice and quit, an employer that you can't negotiate wage on, an employer that you might not necessarily go talk to your feelings about, an employer that might fucking arrest you if something goes wrong,
or send you to you to your death.
Like I haven't seen the U.S. government on Minnesota's top 25 places to work ever, right? So like, and again, I'm not bashing the military. It might be, I don't know anything.
Oh, but the military sucks, dude.
I'm joking about it, kind of. making it light, but I'm trying to like just paint a different picture and a different way of thinking. Like if something goes wrong at work, I can fucking walk out today.
Yeah.
Right. I don't suggest that to people, and I wouldn't encourage people to do that. I actually haven't had a job in 6 weeks because I walked away from my current position because of me.
Mm-hmm.
It was stuff that I needed to not be doing that job. You know, but that employer was great to me. They helped me out. It wasn't anything that they did. I had to make that choice. You guys don't get to make that fucking choice when you sign up for that, right? So like, when does the PTSD start?
Do me a favor, mute and unmute yourself when you're going to talk, so I don't miss what you're saying. Okay. All right, unmute yourself real quick. Well, unmute yourself now. You're talking. There you go. Hit the mute.
Now I don't remember what I was going to say.
There you go. Now you mute yourself. There you go. All right. So anytime you want to talk, do that because it's easier.
I can learn slowly.
So, my question was, I just remembered I had to think about it too, since we all forgot. But like, when does the PTSD start? Right? Like when you get the basic and you get a chance and you're like, I fucking hate this job.
Here we go.
I
have all the answers.
You know, like, what do you do? Can you go put in a 2-week notice? Can you get some support and some help? Can you get put on like an improvement plan where you have a mentor that's not like spitting on your face for yelling so long? Or is that just bullshit that we see on TV that's not real life either? So like, I'm excited to have this conversation because I fucking love our country. I love our military because we have our country because of our military. And I love people. I love everyone. You know what I'm saying? Like,
thank me for my
I want
service,
fucking
Paul.
Everyone to be happy. I'd like to thank you.
That's at the core of everything.
Looking at your face, and I keep thinking about our earlier conversation. No, thank you guys both for
just fucking with you.
No, thank you guys both for your service. Like, legit, I try to thank everybody I can whenever I see them. You know, if I have extra money, I'll buy lunch whenever I can. It's like, it's like the bouncer thing, right?
Yeah.
You guys don't make a fucking shitload of money, right? So why not get a meal every once in a while if you can? But anyway, I need to stop talking for a little bit because I asked like 17 questions and I haven't given anyone
Josh actually has a really good outlook on this.
Yeah.
Dude, I've been in it recently on this topic is and we've been touching on it throughout this whole thing is your identity.
No.
It goes into everything that you do. So, and you're talking about jobs. If you look at it as an employer, like I was 17 when I joined, and you get indoctrinated if you choose to. You know, some people don't. You know, they still keep their individuality in it. I didn't.
Is it hard though? Like, I mean, when you're talking about indoctrination though, is it almost, I don't want to call it brainwashing, but isn't it? No, it is. Is it?
Well, we were in war.
Well, yeah. And well, you have to almost be
out there, and I had the most epic speech from a drill sergeant who wasn't even my drill sergeant. We're sitting there getting ready to go to basic, so we've just got our uniforms and all our stuff, and you have no idea what's about to happen, and that unknown is so. And this before I had anxiety or whatever, so it was just regular unknown, and nobody could have prepared me.
Can I ask you a question? And I'm sorry to interrupt. You said before you had anxiety. So just one question that I have to know, and I'm trying to ask everybody this as part of my learning, but do you think maybe you've always had it, but it's never been opened or exposed until you got put into the pressurizer and then it just became more evident? Like maybe your isolation away from home or something made you see it more because you weren't in your area where you were safe? Not to put words in your mouth.
I actually felt the most at home at basic than I probably ever felt.
Okay.
And it's because my father was in the Army, so it just felt natural to me.
Right.
But I still didn't know it was going to happen. I didn't know where my role was in everything. So we're sitting on our duffel bags, and the drill sergeant comes up to us, and his whole intent of his speech was to let us know that this was about to be death. That if we make it out, we're lucky.
That's 17.
I was 17 years old, man.
Fuck.
And he said, when that first bullet flies by, and he said, that's when you know. And I just didn't understand that, you know. but that stuck with me every step of the way when I'm learning teamwork, when I'm learning about these people that I don't like that are around me, that we're getting into fights and everything, but they became my family, and I'll do anything for them.
Which means kick their ass if they need it, right? So that's the family. Yeah.
And you know, that becomes part of you. If you're successfully indoctrinated, you know. But then I had to go back to school after that. I had to go finish senior year. So that split me. And I was like, okay, now I'm me again. And then
how hard was that year in school for you though, after you had kind of like, after you were a new guy going in, like what
I was sleeping. I was sleeping. Oh, dude, if anybody looks back, I embraced it like a little Boy Scout. Like everybody was like, oh yeah, he's in the National Guard. Look at that guy. He thinks he's so cool. And it's like, no, yeah, I did. Because I was a true believer.
Yeah.
And I go to my second hour class and I fell asleep, and my teacher comes up to me and says, you know what your problem is? You don't have any discipline. And I looked at him and was like, you know what the fuck you're talking about, dude? What I just went through. Like, and then, but that is part of the reason why veterans have that little bit of superiority, but it's a misguided. It's because they're trying to have a protector role, but they also want to feel validated. It's a weird.
But everybody, it's not even that weird though, because everybody wants to be their best version of themselves, right? Like people don't go to a job, like civilians don't go to a job without an intent. Well, okay, this is going to be the same across all fields, I think, right? So if you were to divide people into thirds at any company, you have like 1/3 of people probably that are just happy to be there, that will just do exactly what the job description says, maybe even a little bit less because they can get away with it. Then you have 1/3 of people that are going to try to be overachievers because they really want to be there. They really want to work. Those are the motherfuckers I want saving me, right?
Yeah.
I don't want the bottom third that's like, my job description says I have to kick open the door and step back. No, I want you to kick open the door and fucking come get me, bro. like well, it doesn't say go get the fucking fat dude that's crying in the corner, but I want you to do that.
I'm going to show everybody most people that listen to this are veterans, but for people that have never seen what it's like in basic training, this is what we experience when we're 17, 18 years old. So you guys can't hear this, sorry.
Oh, goddamn, where's that?
Yeah, even though you have headphones,
wait till the third guy comes in, just
no, this is right now too. Yeah, he looks like he's responding.
He's trying to. This is what we call a shark attack, and recently the Army outlawed it because it causes stress. The drill instructor set that shit up. The sad thing is, I guarantee that recruit had no idea what was just about to happen. Guarantee you.
Okay, so you guys sit there and laugh. I chuckled a little bit, but I actually have the chills.
Yeah, we laughed because we all experienced it. We're like, oh shit, I remember that. That sucked.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, fight or flight is triggered immediately.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to teach you how to stay calm during the fight or flight.
Right. But how many people get moved along the ranks because the numbers and the bodies have to be there to support the efforts that are going on that shouldn't because they can't handle that? I guess. And does it is that like a known problem?
Very much.
Okay. I'm late to the party with my questions.
No, it's just not something that really people ask. It's not a question people ask very often, to be honest. I don't think I've ever been asked that.
Well, I don't think anybody fucking has any clue what's going on, and they don't want to ask.
Well, here's the thing is,
oh shit.
What do you think that guy is? What are his options to react to that type of situation?
Yes, sir. He knows he's only got one.
Yeah, but no idea. At the time, I'd just be saying, yes, drill sergeant. I had not processed any of it. I just move out and hope I figure it out on the way. But that's actually a good response because I did. I figured it out.
Yeah.
I found a bunch of other people that are just as confused as me. We have no idea. what this is, and we work together to figure it out. There's a little bitching, but eventually we find out how this guy moves, how that guy moves, and what he thinks like. And I might have to say something to this guy to get him over that obstacle. And oh, dude, there's so many things that go into it. But when it comes to like combat training, when they're doing this kind of stuff, and you have to negotiate a obstacle or like when you're doing buddy movement drills, which is teaching you how to communicate, shoot, and move. And when you're tired and when you're scared and when you don't know what's going on, I don't know how everybody else does it, but when I hit the point where I didn't have any energy, I didn't know what to do, I reached this like fire of rage, and I pushed through, and it was blind. Like I'd run, I could do everything better for a minute, and then and that was my way of like coping with stress, and I learned that, and I repeated it, and I did it over and over and over again until that became almost as much as the values that they taught me, like loyalty and duty, but that was along with it. And if you didn't have that, I can't trust you.
Yeah, and especially when you're in Afghanistan, right? There was one time in Afghanistan that I remember, like, I'm gonna fucking die, like I'm not gonna make it past this. And we weren't in a firefight or anything like that. I'm not gonna say who was in office during 2012. However, I am gonna say that motherfucker handcuffed us and didn't allow us to do our fucking job. No, exactly. We couldn't do anything to deter vehicles getting close to us, right? So at the time, they were putting backpacks on children and blowing them up with fucking C4, having the kids walk up to us so we would play with them, give them candy, and then blow us the fuck up, right? So that's the kind of shit that we had to get used to. That was normal. Anytime I saw a kid with a backpack, I had a fucking pistol aimed at him, right? How think about it like this. For anybody who's never held a gun before, guns can be a little weird, right? For a lot of veterans, I spent a large majority of my time in Iraq and Afghanistan with a pistol to people's fucking heads, right? I'm 10, 15 feet away, but I have to be careful because if that guy fucking pulls out a detonator, I need to shoot him in the fucking head before he pulls that trigger because 15 people are fucking dead because
no time to think.
Right.
Yeah. You have to just act. And the one time I remember where I was just like, I felt so fucking scared is we were driving through a village on what was that road called? My Afghan boys, Dan, if you're still listening, what was the name of that road? Essentially, we weren't allowed to go down anymore. I think it was Gladius. But she's fine. I think it was Gladius, but anytime we went down Gladius, somebody got shot at, somebody got blown up. Fucking RPG went right through an army guy's fucking window and shit one night. So like we drive through, and I have a big 50 cal, but I have to spend the majority of my time with my pistol out because I need to shoot up into the second story because we're driving and we're in a village and there's buildings right here and right here, and all someone has to do is pop up real quick, pop, and I'm dead. And so I'm sitting there the whole time looking out for not me, but the gunners behind me, because that was the other way around. I was Delta gunner. But like, what if these guys pop up and shoot a fucking RPG? I need to be ready to go fucking now, right? I need to be ready to take somebody's life now. Like that was my life for 6 years. And people wonder why we get out of the military and we're so fucking like fight or flight all the time, right? Because you think about it like this. I did an interview with a neuroscience researcher down in Florida, and I had him on my podcast or on my my documentary as like the science behind everything that I was doing with jiu-jitsu. And he explained to me something that made a lot of sense that I never really thought about is you release massive amounts of cortisol when you're in the fight or flight, right? And what ends up happening to veterans, because we spend so much time up there, we essentially start to stop creating it. Like it stops producing and we just don't give a fuck anymore, which makes sense because when I was in Afghanistan, every time we got mortared or rocketed, the alarms would go off and I would just be like, hit me.
Well, hearing you say that though, it's like,
you just go back to sleep.
Yeah, you just go right back to bed.
But it makes total sense though to think about. I mean, okay. It's not excitement like you're living at Valley Fair, doing that. Remember when KDWB used to do those contests where you'd have to get on Wild Thing and the last person
stay there
got
for
like, I would love to do that shit again.
Hell yeah.
But, it's like, I totally lost my train of thought.
Well, it has meaning.
Anxiety.
The stress, the anxiety. Yeah.
But it's for something other than the thrill of it on its own.
Yes, thank you.
It has meaning.
It has meaning, but it's a rush, right?
Yeah.
You're getting excited, you're getting your adrenaline rush. It doesn't matter that it wasn't super fun. What else can you get that from? Right. And is that maybe
cocaine?
Some of well, that's what I'm gonna say. Like that gets you into the next thing. If you can't if you can't get it from your body anymore, and that's something that you lived in, you have to go find that.
Yeah.
And then we talked about food addictions and other drug, right? So now we're making
layers too.
Right.
Like, what was I was just talking to somebody the other day. Actually, I reconnected with somebody I deployed with, and she kind of stayed on base most of the time. So she had a different perspective on the same events. And
in a firefight, a bullet whizzes by someone's head, but the other person's fine. I'm fucked up, but they're okay. It's weird.
Well,
or vice versa.
But
sometimes.
what I realized was that we're taking different perspectives into it, and also experiencing it from a different perspective. Yeah. But we kind of actually both had similar results, and I'm watching, having her tell me her story about her life now, and making the connections to what every change of perspective that we have, based on what we're bringing to this situation. So it's not just the chemical reaction of the situation and the dump, the cortisol and all that. It's the story that we're building, because it has to have some sort of meaning as to who I am and what I'm doing. And when I was deployed, I circulated the battlefield, which was just us occupying an area and trying not to get hit by rockets that were randomly thrown at us. But every time that I went to a different unit, I saw the same looks on everybody's face, and it was a mix of trying to find meaning, like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But then also trying to cling to, okay, this is who I am. That's why, because I'm a soldier, because I represent this unit, because I blah 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 blah. But when you have conflicting beliefs, like I was going to talk about, like how I was talking about my rage that I tapped into, the dark side energy, I like to call it. I have always been against that. I remember when I was a kid, my dad would try to get me aggressive and hit the dudes on the football, and I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to hurt them. And then you get to a point where violence is done onto you, and you know that there has to be some sort, you have to meet it at least. And in the Army or the military, we're taught to exceed it. Whatever they
go to the next level.
You have to overpower with everything you have online, straight at that target. And that's not, since the military, I'm trying to find that lesson, and it doesn't apply anywhere else. Like, you can't live your life like that.
Yeah. You can't walk around every day and meet and exceed force.
No.
I wish I could in traffic sometimes when people cut me off and shit, because it's like I would like meet and exceed you right off the side of the road.
And it sounds so simple though, right?
Yeah,
but it's in my body.
Yeah. Well, have you and I'm not trying to assume anything, but just listen to you talk, it sounds like you've done a lot of work on yourself, and and
still there.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. And I'm working on myself daily too, which I think, like, the beauty of all this is that you'll never understand what the fuck anybody else is doing and why, unless you figure out what's happening with you first and how you tick. And that journey for a lot of men, whether you're military or not, starts way too fucking late because of how we were raised, and the previous generation of men
That's actually why I'm trying to get in and speak for the Air Force. Like I said, I have my first one up in Minot coming up soon. We're still working on dates and stuff, but I'll be able to go up and talk to the whole security forces, all of the security forces squadrons up in Minot. So I'll be able to talk to, 19, 20-year-olds and have the conversation I fucking wish somebody would have had them with me when I was 20. Actually paying attention to these certain things, these signs, these symptoms of PTSD and just stress from war and fatigue and how like life just can absolutely suck if you don't actually do the work and try to make it better.
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason why I'm really pushing to get into the Air Force. Plus it'd be nice to get paid by the Air Force because they've definitely taken all they wanted from me. So
yeah,
it's my turn.
Trying to come back. Hey, I'm back.
I know, right?
Remember me?
Yeah. You're the dumbass that was the E4 Mafia for 4 years.
Oh, whoops. Man. It's such a crazy thing to talk about because it's just scratching the surface. And I think we all know that all the conflict and the disagreements just comes from people thinking they know more than they really do and just not taking the time to get what they need.
That living off assumptions.
To fucking accept. Yeah. Right? People don't, you need to learn to like understand and accept. You don't need to have a conversation to change somebody's mind every time. Just feel good about your position.
You hit on it earlier, man. You said, I just want everybody to be happy. You said, I love everybody. Like you threw it out there like it was nothing. That shit's so like important.
But it's hard. It's hard. It's even hard to say that today, but you gotta,
it's not for me.
One thing that needs to walk, you gotta walk the talk, right? Like I can sit here and say it, but I need to go out here and make sure I smile at a couple people. For me, it's gone down as far as I've stopped complaining about bad service when I go out to eat or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'll just say, like if my food's cold or whatever, I'm not going to eat it. I'll send it back. I'll get something to drink and I'm not fucking taking anything else they bring back.
Because we're going to spit in it.
But at the end of the day, it's like, I need people to know where I'm at so we can work well together, right? If you're providing terrible service and cold food and I eat it and I pay full price and I still tip you as a server will never give feedback to your cooks. You'll never give it to them. You'll never get so like I also understand that those servers need the tips, right? So like I want to say that I never shitty tip a server ever, whether they deserve it or not because they need it, but I'll still give feedback. Like you got 20% because I know you need to live on it, but I really wish I could have not tipped you because it was this bad and here's why. Like if I'm going out and doing something with an expectation that I'm paying for a service, I do expect what I'm paying for, and then I expect people to be willing to hear what I have to say if I feel it's not worth what I'm paying for it, right? Like you're here working to get your tip so you can pay for your family. I work my ass off and now I'm coming out to celebrate with probably the one meal that I can do and afford right now because of the times. And it's $36 for a fucking order of buffalo wings, right?
I know, right?
I got 5 kids that eat like horses, 3 kids, 5 family, so it's like all of these things add up. So let's not forget about where your customer came from and what they're doing and that they might be a server too that's trying to
the thing that irritates me about servers, I was a pizza delivery boy, so I know what it's like for tips. I lived off of tips for years, but I was always very nice. I was always very smiley. I'd talk to people, and I did my best to make it a good experience. I was delivering a fucking pizza, but I still took that fucking approach, right? And when servers just expect tips, that's what bothers me, right? It's not an expectation, right? A tip is say, hey, you did a good job. I want to give you a little bit more money because you make shit for money. For me, even though I lived off of tips and everything like that, nobody should ever expect anything from anybody. The only thing I expect from anybody is to be nice to me. That's it. That's my only expectation for everybody, right? I have different expectations for different people, like for you and like Mara, I have different expectations for her. But when it comes to like the general public or anybody that I interact with that I don't know, the only expectation I have is be nice. That's it. You don't owe me a fucking thing. I don't owe you a fucking thing. We're 2 people that have never met each other and we're just beginning to start a conversation. Obviously, expectations, they change, right? They evolve with the, with the whatever the relationship is. But when people live entitled and like they expect everything from somebody and then they don't get it. It's like fucking Chevy Chase in the vacation movies. He has massive expectations and nothing goes his way, and he loses his fucking shit.
Yeah.
Well, he was touching on accountability, really, like, you know, like checking somebody, being like, all right, hey man, this is what you're supposed to be doing. You're not quite living up to that. But like, if we start, like, where does that stop? Like, I mean, like, I like that idea, right? Like, because I would assume that if I'm not doing good, somebody's gonna correct me. That's part of being a team, whatever.
You know, I will, motherfucker.
Yeah, but that's but it's huge, right? Like, you, because of your guys' background, you have the ability to have those conversations. Like, that's part of, like, I don't want to say hardness. Maybe part of the indoctrination is the ability to have what people outside of difficult situations would call conflict, or somebody. It's all it is being direct. Like, when it's like, hey, I noticed you were staring at me. Is everything okay?
No.
Yeah, it's fine.
And there's a lot of people that would
right?
instantly get fucking
what
offended.
What do you mean? What are you looking? You know,
well, that's when if somebody acts that way, that's when you have to take that second to be like, hey, wait, I'm on your team, right? I want to make sure that I'm moving towards the same goal as you.
But there's not enough people that ask that initial question of, hey, I noticed this. Is everything okay? They walk by it, they get pissed off, and they go talk shit to 10 other people, and then it blows into this bubble and it escalates. And now you're
or they make you think that they're also doing that, but they're really just trying to serve whatever story that they got going.
Right.
Yeah.
Just to try to avoid the conflict.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the hard thing too.
Is conflict.
100%.
That's the hard thing with what I do with Warriors Next Adventures, because, like, you know, as everybody knows who listens to the show often, you know, the main thing that we do is the suicide prevention, right? And how do you be direct with somebody when they have a fucking shotgun in their mouth? You know, like, you have to be very fucking tactical with your words, but at the same time, I still have to have that person have accountability for their actions. What did you do to get yourself into this situation? Because no matter what anybody thinks, I don't give a fuck. Anyone can argue this point with me all they want. I don't care. You can't always control what happens to you. That's a fact. But you can always, no matter what, control your reaction. Always. You know, you react in a way that you feel fitting for the situation, right? It may not be right, but in your head, at that moment, that's the right reaction for you. And so what I do is I try to help people see that, you know, maybe there's another pathway that we could take, right? So it's essentially all I do is just open doors. That's all I'm doing. And so anytime anybody reaches out to me and says, hey, Nick, you saved my life, the first thing I say to them is like, no, I didn't. You did. All I did was open the door. You have to step through it.
Let me share what you did for me. So when I'm stuck in my, because that's another thing I was going to hit on, is like when people when they're unconsciously in whatever state that they're in, they literally can't do anything other than what that state does. So they need somebody to kind of mirror back to them what's happening right now. But what you did for me was you kind of could tell under everything what my main goal was.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like, hey, like, don't you want to be this? And like, kind of like not directing me, but allowing me to see, you know, what
it's just, all it was just opening the door so you could see that it's possible. That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing would have happened if you didn't step through that door.
And that's leadership, man, is like not telling somebody what they can do, but showing them that they can create the space to find the way that they want to do something that's the most productive for everybody else and themselves.
Well, yeah, finding that, being able to validate it for you so you didn't feel it alone. Probably like, okay, you know what? It's got to be truth. It's more than just me, right? So that having people validate you, your feelings, where you're at is huge. I think that's the
biggest thing that I think I accomplish is I validate the way that person is feeling, and they're not getting that from anybody else. Yeah. And so I can actually afford that to them because, I mean, I tried to kill myself. I know exactly what they're going through,
right?
You know, and then when you get to that stage of such severe depression and loneliness and sadness, and where you literally don't want to live, and the best option in your eyes is just to end it. The first thing that you want is for somebody to validate, I get why you feel that way. I understand why you feel that way. It's a valid thought because of what you're going through. Yeah. However, let me open this door and show you what's possible,
right.
you know, and then teach them how to walk through the door.
Everybody's got to be reminded that they have some type of a purpose or a meaning or a drive, just to keep them focused enough on getting to that next day so you can do some of the work. Because, you know, if we're talking about mental health and some of these issues, and I, you know, it's funny because if you know, Josh, I just met you today, but just talking to you, I'm assuming that you've probably been in therapy somewhere between 2 to 3, maybe more years, just working on yourself, or maybe
no, he's just
like
a fucking
reading
phenom, and he just really, he's a very intelligent person.
But the point, I think, is like, we're sitting here. Okay, but you can do a lot 1 year with yourself if you're motivated and dedicated to it and want to do the healing and feel good. And I think that it's just like, you know, we can sit here and have this conversation and we're all maybe at like, you know, 1/3 of the way through the race, but like, we just got to continue to buy the time to allow ourselves to work on it. And if people are listening to this and struggling, and you don't have the ability or feel like you can talk about this stuff this calmly, it just means you're not there yet. You know, like I died over 4 times in October of 2020. You know, my spleen ruptured. I bled to death internally. I got 4 units of blood. I had to be transferred from one hospital to the other while they were giving me blood, and they told me good luck. I was looking at the doctor while they started my first blood transfusions, and the dude was like this, and he had another doctor like consoling him, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna fucking die with that. I'm like, if this is going on over here, I'm pretty sure I'm fucking toast. And then one of the nurses comes in, and I got 2 of these nurses that are like fighting each other and like, get the blood, you know, like I was dying in front of them. Like my skin was gray, completely bled out, and they're fighting with each other about who's doing what, you know. And I'm just watching all this happen, and that's where it hit me, is like, they're really doing the best they can, you know. But yes, they're going to do the best they can, but I'm still probably going to die. This is how I felt at the moment, right? Luckily, I came out and I came through, but it's like I had to come full circle with like myself and my feelings and my opinion on that, because like I went to the place where I was supposed to go for help. I needed to put trust in those people to help me. It almost didn't go the way it was supposed to, but it did. So now I'm thankful for everything that I learned, and what I've been through is traumatic. I've had the suicidal thoughts, and went from only taking vitamin C and fish oil to being on 12 prescription medications that were like, I got on the first 2 of them, and then every drug from that point was trying to manage the side effects I was having from the first 2, which was for ADHD.
Sounds a lot like the VA.
Yeah, ADHD and anxiety.
How well that correlates to what we're doing physically to try to manage our shit. Like, okay, so I feel this way, so then I make a decision to act or do a certain activity because of the way that I'm feeling, and then there's a side effect to that because you chose. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, it's like so parallel to actually what you're taking, what you're consuming.
So like, well, here's an example, right? And this is an example of like mental health and how it works and some of those scenarios. So I'm not on any medications right now. All right, I use medicinal marijuana. I don't know if you can call that a medication.
Yeah, it's absolutely a medication.
Whatever.
Absolutely. It's the reason why I didn't kill people when I got back.
Well, no, I don't even think it should be a medication. I think it should be government issued to every household. But anyway, that's a topic for another day, right? But, you know, I think that, like, you know, everyone's got their own layers that they're going through. Everybody sees all of their own trauma, right? Like, I've never been shot at, guys, right? But I have felt like, I literally felt like I was walking through hell holding the devil's hand for about 18 months. Tried to leave my family. I was starting to identify with people that were homeless on the side of the road, and watching what they were doing, because I was preparing myself to be homeless. Like, I'm internalizing it all, right? My family is trying to reach out to me and show me that they love me, but they're also traumatized because they almost lost me, right? So now I have 2 teenagers and a young son that don't know how to tell me how much they love me and how scared they were when they didn't think. Like, I left with gas pains, and I almost didn't come home to my family. Right? Like, that's a level in trauma for them in itself. The kids were, 2 of the older kids weren't even home. They went on vacation to their mom's house out of town.
Mm-hmm.
I could have been fucking dead by the time they got home. Right? And that's stuff I think about every day too. Like, did I do enough as a parent? You know, so that allowed some great healing conversations with the kids. Like,
did you have those conversations with them?
I have them every day as much as I can. I'll tell you what, like, I needed to have like slippery when wet signs put in the house because I cry like 7 to 12 times a day. You know, and it's one of those things.
That's good
where,
though. That's
like,
good. It's better than holding that shit in
dude,
and trying to fucking be the tough guy.
If you haven't ugly cried in a while, here's what my suggestion would be to you guys and everybody listening. First, schedule a chiropractor appointment because that shit fucking hurts more. It's like when you don't play softball for 2 years and you jump back in and play a doubleheader and you can't sit down to take a shit properly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what happens, you know, after you start this process. So schedule that appointment so you can make sure to get everything worked out. But you know, there's such a release that comes with that because we were never allowed to do it. Suck it up, walk it off, rub some dirt on it, get over it. And it's like, how much of that, like, question now. Let me ask a question.
Sure.
If, and this is probably gonna be hard for you guys to think about, but if you had been raised in a way where it was like, share your feelings, let's talk about it, would any of those bunk conversations with people you were getting to know, like in basic, or would you have stopped by somebody and been like, are you all right, man? Like, can we talk? Like,
that's the thing, man. I don't know. That's how I've always been.
Yeah.
Nobody understands. They look at me like I'm weird, like, and I'm like,
weak,
or something.
Yeah.
And so for me, I've always been an open book. I'll tell you anything.
Well, on top of that too, it's
got to be hard for you a little bit too sometimes when you watch people's reactions to you.
Well, it's harder now.
Yeah. It's harder now.
Yeah, I mean, not right now, but like in the recent past. Like,
okay.
He's a massive fucking empath too. Like, he's very good at reading people. Okay. That's one of the reasons why I keep him so close with the nonprofit, and for me too is he's half the reason why, you know, certain things that I've built on, because Josh literally comes over. Sometimes I just work and he sits there on his phone and like I ask him a question and before he answers, I answer the question that I need. I need somebody here that's on the same level as me. Sometimes he doesn't even fucking talk. And he's like, I need him here because he's got the brain patterns that I need. And then at the same time, the more and more we sit and talk philosophy of healing, because like a lot of people see a lot of the cool shit we do, like the race cars, mountain climbing, shit like that. But the real work comes in literally sitting and talking philosophy of PTSD and depression and why certain people feel the certain ways they do. Everything we do applies to civilians too. Everything.
Yeah.
So I tell people all the time, we're here to support veterans, do what we need. But if anything that we say, you know, helps you in a certain way, that it's supposed to, because it's the same thing, right? The only difference in trauma is the experience. That's it. The only difference is the experience.
Trauma. Yep.
Yeah.
And so, you guys read that book, Body Keeps the Score?
I've heard of it. It's in my list, but
well, you know, when you're an ADHD person too, like I would go out there to say most people with PTSD, in my opinion, do have some form of ADHD. Because
I have it massively.
I think it's the ADHD and the way that holds on to your attention and doesn't let you control it is what brings you back to some of those memories by default, which starts to trigger some of that. So that's just my opinion. And that's through my own research and my own journey of like, I've been writing 30 to 45 minutes every day since I died. And that's why I've been talking about doing a podcast. I've been talking about doing stand-up comedy again, because I have pages of comedy that I wrote that was keeping me alive.
Josh,
this is the funniest shit I've ever put together, because I was dying and I was going after people's throats. Like, I was like, I could be on Comedy Central, you know, roast for this.
So you know that like I've been writing comedy for like 3 years, right? I'm just too chicken shit to do it. So maybe that's something we need to put on each other. Maybe we go down to Acme Comedy Club and we fucking push each other to go try to start doing it.
All right.
Because I'm terrified. I can get in front of a crowd of 1,000 people and motivate the shit out of them and talk to them for fucking 2, 3, 4 hours, and I'm fine. But I go up there with the intent I've been to Acme Comedy Club twice, signed up, and fucking left because I was so scared. and I don't know what it is. It's severe fucking anxiety because it's like, it's something I've never done before. I felt the same way before I started this podcast though. And I just fucking went in and did it. And now it's like, whatever.
Well, that's the reason I haven't done it is because it's been, like I'm slightly anxious. Well, just about life, but also about, recording what you have to say. We're going live, right? You slip up, somebody hates you forever, whatever. Yep. But like, this is kind of an intimidating arena, and you have to be ready to heal. You got to be willing to share and able to listen. And, so I
focus on intent, right? Yeah. I'm going to offend people because I'm going to say funny shit to make this group laugh. This group is going to say, I don't like that. Like, well, I'm sorry you got offended, but I'm not sorry for what I said because my intent was to make these people laugh.
Right.
If we talk about things that are triggering and make somebody really sad, they're like, I don't like that you talked about that because it made me sad. I would just say, good. Yeah. Because it's obviously triggering something that you need to fucking hear. Well, right. What I wanted to talk about, dude. Following your emotions. Unmute, bro.
My phone's going to die too.
Josh said, hey, that's something I want to talk about, following emotions. And it was like the perfect segue into that, and you didn't get to announce it. So go ahead.
That's what I said. Yeah. Dude, that's exactly what I wanted to talk about, following emotions. No, but for real, that's something that I'm trying to do. And I feel like I'm just like on the edge of like, everything's going to make sense. And the truth is not, it's never going to be that. But I was watching this video on shame, and this
was it the one by Brene Brown?
Yes, it was. Okay. And anyway,
talking about
okay, so she said the two ways that she sees it manifest is fuck, I can't remember the first one because the second one identifies to me so much. Who am I? Who am I to do this? Because like I still feel like I'm a piece of shit. And
it's a lot of it is imposter syndrome. Me and you have talked a lot about it.
I know, and I don't know what it is. So this weekend I'm sitting here contemplating on all the stuff that I want to talk to you about later. And I talking to a couple vets and stuff and getting to this point where I have this feeling in my chest that like the thing that was making me so unhappy was I wasn't living truly as I should be, or how I think of myself, or you know what I mean, like my true calling or whatever.
Yeah, you weren't following the purpose.
And I got to the point where I realized that like I don't know if it's healthy, probably not. So hopefully I'm going to work on this a little bit more. But I'm going to die if I don't do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the whole thing. I was writing chapter 3. I was writing chapter 3 on my book, The Warrior's Path to Inner Peace. And chapter 3 talks about acceptance and accepting your past. The hard thing for a lot of people is to hear, accept your past. Because what they think is like where their brain goes to is like, oh, I have to be okay with the fact that I was abused. I have to be okay with the fact that no, but you need to accept and acknowledge the fact that it happened.
Right.
It happened. Yeah. Right. Now, I start the chapter out with literally this is how I start that chapter out. Get over it. You'll be fine. Time heals all wounds. Yeah. Doesn't that make you want to punch me in the fucking face?
No, because do you
go that's that's the beginning.
Oh, you say that?
Yeah, that's literally the beginning of that chapter.
Well, I think you should
does not make it makes you want to punch me in the face.
Yeah. No, for sure.
That's the hardest part. Is actually acknowledging, and everybody wants to pretend like it doesn't. It's outrageous. It's something that we should fight against and stop at all costs as evil. And you can't do that. It will always exist. It has to. It has to exist. Right. And then to have the realization that that's in you. It's in everybody. Yeah. There's a little bit. There's extremes and stuff. And I think that's one of the biggest things is when we were getting, rockets. I mean, I didn't see close combat or anything, but I wanted to. I wanted to fucking kill those people. Those nameless, faceless people that I created in my brain.
Yeah.
And then to reconcile that feeling with, am I a good person? Yeah. How could I be a good person?
And you want to kill people, so therefore you can't be a good person. So
I cannot be a good person.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I go hunting with my buddies, and I've gotten a couple shots off purposely, not even at the animal, because I'm thinking about it on a different level where I can't even shoot an animal for hunting. I'll eat them. I will eat every fucking animal out there that somebody else shoots, right? Like I'll go out with you. My buddy likes to hunt. I went and sat in his deer stand. he told me I was never invited back again because of my ADHD and an inability to be quiet. So that'll never happen again. But like, I don't trust myself with weapons, right? But that doesn't mean that I don't support them. I need people that are going to take the time and study and understand and know how to use those things to help keep me safe, right? So like, I'm one of those people that understands myself.
Yeah.
Everyone, including Paul, is safer when Paul does not have a fucking weapon, right? And it's mostly for my own safety. I'm not even thinking about everybody else, but then I know I got guys out there that will protect me if I need it when I'm out there, because there's good people with guns that have the training, right?
Yeah.
So
and that's where the
I'm
gun
going to stop with that.
Yeah.
We're not going to go.
That's where the gun debate can turn into some. It can be fucking ridiculous.
Today's not
hey, that's not my fight.
Right. So you know, I just, yeah, I don't know. I think
there was something else that I had. So, dude, I'm trying not to get too deep because
dig, man, fucking dig into the hole.
Everything is yes and no at the same time. But think about that for a second. Yeah. No, but the whole thing, the idea of the evil good thing is just like to know that the evil exists so that you can be good. And
well, how are we going to know wwhat's good if there's no evil?
It's the
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were actually asking. Like you were stumped on that.
No. Oh. No, it's like we can't have happy without sadness, right? Life is a roller coaster. How are you going to understand? Like, there's a speech by Alan Watts that just popped into my head. Alan Watts is absolutely fucking amazing, and he talks about the troughs and the valleys, right? There's always going to be ups and downs consistently. There will always, no matter what, the rest of your life is going to be ups and downs. If you don't experience happiness, if you don't experience sadness, how are you going to truly appreciate happiness? Right? If you don't experience lows, how are you going to truly appreciate the highs? You know, like we all love the roller coaster going up, right? Roller coasters are kind of backwards, right? It's fun going down, but you know, sometimes it is fun going down. Yeah. It's crazy though.
Sometimes those spirals down are controlled too, right? Like
yeah.
we know what's happening and we don't do anything.
And we just continue to feed it.
Right.
You know, like when I was spiraling. So before my suicide attempt, like I said, I got a little emotional yesterday because I was writing about it. And which I thought I was so much farther in my book, but I literally stopped at 9,900 and I think it was at 9,984 words before I stopped typing yesterday. I'm like, fuck, I just missed 10,000. I thought I was at like 15,000 already, so I'm already kind of pissed at myself. But anyway, I was talking about like the steps to my suicide attempt. One of my roles in the new movie, I'm an executive producer for a movie called The 22. We got Gary Sinise involved, which is fucking awesome. I don't know how the fuck I got brought on board to this, but I'm super excited. So one of the things that I'm in charge of is actually digging through the script and adding suicidal ideations, because there wasn't really that much in the script. And I'm like, we can do better, because our goal is to help people recognize the signs of suicide. And so I go back and I think about like I said, you introduced me to Mark in 2014. I needed that so fucking bad because I was already spiraling, and jiu-jitsu brought me up a little bit, and I loved it and it was great. And then I just started to spiral again. And what I did was I quit jiu-jitsu because it was the only thing that made me happy. And I felt like I didn't deserve to be happy.
Yeah.
And so I pulled everything away. I continued to drink, and it got to the point where I was drinking, you know, a bottle of Jameson every other day, or, you know, it would get to the point where I had a hidden compartment in my boat in my garage, which had a bunch of alcohol in it. So I never ran out. So whenever I wanted to run and hide in my garage and drink myself to death, you know, I could. And then I'd go upstairs and pass out on the couch because me and Cassie hated each other. You know, I was at the worst fucking time in my life, and I knew it was happening. I continued to let it happen. I made it worse by drinking and saying, well, I hate myself. I'm going to hate myself more. Glug, glug, glug.
I think that well, yeah, but that addiction becomes an addiction itself, right? Like that, you have to start, if you're not chasing the highs, you're starting to chase the lows. You're not going to feel bad and be like, you're not going to sit in one spot.
Died.
You're not going to sit in one spot and be like, I feel bad. This is enough. You quit jiu-jitsu. You're like, I'm at my lowest low. this isn't enough. I need
Let's
to go
make
lower.
it lower.
Let me quit the one thing I love. Now, what's the one thing you love there? Well, then now it's going to be what? Maybe it's your house. That's your next thing you love. You run away from home. What's next? You know, so like
in my truck multiple times too.
There's levels to this shit. Yeah. Whether it's negative or positive, you're going to be going on stairs, right? Mm-hmm. So that like the key is to try. Huh? Do you use the Bible at all? I'm a Christian, but I like the Bible. Well, I have a good story for that. Oh, okay. I'm what you would consider a new believer after I died. Do you want me to tell the story?
Sure.
I'll try to go quick. Otherwise,
I'm not religious or anything, but it'll
be tomorrow. I already forgot, but this is fun too. No, it's okay. We're like 3 peas in a pod, you know.
Squirrel.
Yeah. Maybe we should name this group Edamame and do this once a week and just call this group Edamame. But so
this was an experience you had when you died.
Yeah. So I grew up being raised Catholic. The best thing that ever happened to me is after I completed my first communion and started classes to do my what's the thing that comes after first communion? Confirmation. I was asked not to come back because I was distracting. You know, you put an ADHD kid into a quiet room for an hour where you're supposed to fucking color silently and pray. It's just not going to work out well for anybody. Yeah. I don't understand how that happens. Anyway, you know, so all you Bible school people out there, let's think about some active teaching for the kids because you're more likely to get to them that way. All right. So anyway, you know, religion too, to me, like anything else, should be something that we are allowed to experience on our own. Mm-hmm. And our parents should not be telling us what we're doing. Right. Yeah. So like the way, right. But like, you know, at the same time, I think those parents are wanting to do the right thing from what they learned and taught, which is if you're not a believer, you're going to hell, right? Mm-hmm. If you're not a believer, you will go to hell.
That's literally what pushed me away from religion. I was told if I don't get baptized, I'm going to hell.
It's like, religion is what pushes everybody away from religion. Yeah. And we can come back to that too. But I'm like, you know, I told you guys earlier, like if I don't understand something, if I don't study it, I will not sleep. No. You know, so I have to become an expert. Right, because what I found is I can't really count on anybody to give me the information in a way that I need it without having to ask them too many questions and pissing them off to a point where they don't even want to talk to me anymore, right? So like I'm trying to figure out all those things too. Tell the difference between somebody who's experienced something and somebody who's telling you some shit that they heard from somebody else.
So I just want to throw this out there real quick. We got a text and it says, I've identified more as a civilian for a number of years now and I can say everything you've talked about definitely applies to civilian trauma and drug addiction also. So, I mean, it's.
Are they agreeing with me though, or you? Because before I say thank you or acknowledge that person, I just want to know whose side they're on.
It's kind of probably just you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Considering who this person is.
Civilian 1's veteran 0. No. Okay. So, I'll skip the whole accident part. That should just be one conversation its own. But I'm at this point, what happened was my spleen ruptured. Mm-hmm. It's in the middle of COVID. I'm in the ICU. I'm the only conscious person. Everybody else was in controlled comas. The temperature, not temperature, but the rooms with the force control or whatever. Just a creepy thing, right? So, and also during COVID, covered head to toes. Mm-hmm. You know, I had named one visitor during COVID, and it was my wife. We have 3 kids. She couldn't be there with me a lot, so I was alone a lot, you know, and I'm sitting there just looking at videos on my phone, which is probably the fucking, let me just say this, okay? If anybody is struggling out there, don't watch videos on your phone, period.
What do you mean?
Just stop watching videos. If you feel like you're at a low point, you're not going to watch a video. You're going to text the show, call somebody, get somebody verbal or in your face that you can talk to. Do not watch videos because that shit will take you down rabbit holes that we talked about stuff we can't control and algorithms you can't, right? So anyway, I am in, and I'm not even kidding you guys, like I am in the worst pain of my life. what essentially happened is my spleen ruptured, and I bled to death internally. Mm-hmm. So when your spleen ruptures, which is basically your blood's oil filter to your body, mm-hmm. all of my blood's going through there, and it's emptying into like my abdomen cavity. So it's coming outside of everything it's supposed to travel in. Well, no, they didn't do any of that. So at this point, they had come to me, and I'm in the ICU, and the doctor says, I've been a doctor for 29 years. I've consulted with a couple of other doctors that are in the area that have, been senior people of mine or whatever. Ran through your case. We don't understand how your spleen ruptured, because I didn't have any type of I was literally standing at a stand-up workstation at my desk, and I felt just a tingle in my heart. That's all it was. So, and then he said, and we also can't explain how it healed itself. But what we would like to see happen, and what we're hoping, is that maybe your blood will absorb itself, so we won't have to remove the blood. So if you picture it, like, have you guys ever had like an MRI or anything where they inject the dye? Mm-hmm. Did they ever like nick your bone and you saw like a different dimension? No. Okay, so like, I'm telling you what, like, mushrooms are great, but if you want to be on a different planet, have somebody put a needle onto like your bone inside, and you will see shit you have never even thought you would ever see in your life. Okay, worst pain you could ever probably experience. So this now is my new level of pain, because I have 16 pounds worth of fluid that's trapped in my body, that's putting 16 pounds of pressure on everything else that's none of your insides are touched by anything, right? So if you can separate what I'm trying to tell you, that everything that's never been touched by anything, all of a sudden it has 16 pounds of pressure on it, everything. My colon pain was moved and shifted and pinched, and like, it's 16 pounds of pressure. Yeah. So that night I felt every muscle in my body from my waist up was in a constant Charlie horse because of the blood pressure. So and this is no lie, up to my neck, I felt it just under my ears, constant Charlie horses, my lower jaw is like going like this. I couldn't control it for days. And I did try to take out everything. Yeah. So, I haven't really said this out loud a lot, so
you're good, man.
But I took out all my IVs, and I just laid back, and I'm like, I can't fucking do this. Like, it hurts too bad. And then what hurt more than that was giving up on the people that I care about the most, and knowing that someone else would have to tell them that I fucking quit on them. And I felt like I needed somebody else. And that's when I was like, God, I've made like probably 5 million promises to you. and you've done your part every single time. I want to make that clear too. Like, everything I've always asked for just seemed to like show up or work out. And I just said, I will quit drinking. I'll quit smoking. I'll quit chewing. I'll quit smoking. I will do everything if you can show me that this isn't what is going to end me. And then I said, time out. I will quit everything but weed, God. I want to make sure. And I swear to God, I said, I am fucking committing this time. I will give up everything but weed. And I swear to God, and I'll do it. I felt the fucking right. It was a right hand. This part of it covered my entire neck. The fingers came down around here, and then thumb around my back. And you've met my mom. My mom passed away 10 years ago, but she's a Greek woman. And I tell everybody too, it's like either God or my mom's giant ass Greek hand was on my back, right? So, and then it touched right where the pain was. And then over the course of 5 minutes, I felt all the pain slowly lower out of my body. Like, a minute later, it was down to here. And I'm like, holy shit, I can breathe. I don't have my oxygen in. I'm doing fine. I can breathe. I'm not in pain. Every ounce of pain went out of my toes. 5 minutes goes by. I'm pain free. I'm breathing. And I wasted a lot of that 5 minutes allowing myself to feel good.
Yeah.
And, you know, not being as active as I wanted to be on, like, probably journaling and writing stuff down. But I was just like, oh, I'm in the clear. Yeah. And, you know, I wish I would have been, looking back, I wish I'd been more intentional during that free time, because I feel like it could have been really a great opportunity for me. But anyway, it passed. And 5 minutes later, I felt the pain start in the tips of my toes again. And it slowly came right back up to where it was. The next day, when I woke up, the blood flow, like the cramps in my neck, had stopped. And I had no pain in my neck at all. And the nurse came in and they're like, your blood is reabsorbing at a rapid pace.
That's fucking crazy.
So to this day, we still don't know how it happened.
Can I ask you?
Yeah.
When you were making that, I don't know, like you talking to God, or when you right before that, or whenever you had when the switch flipped,
Right.
Did you have a thought that I can't live with myself, or was it not like that? Or were you separating yourself from the pain you were feeling?
So I think at that stage, it's not like I was upset with myself for giving up, but I couldn't live with the pain. Yeah. Is what it was. Like I felt like I actually felt like my physical body could not continue is what that pain felt like, you know? So it was less, I don't think I had time to really dig in on the self-hate, which probably would have happened, you know, very quickly, because that's like the next step in that scenario is if something dramatic or amazing doesn't happen when you ask for it and look for it, we're so used to instant gratification that we can quickly go down the wrong path without letting things develop, you know, like
like making a decision based on escaping something,
right?
Going towards something.
Well, and that's the beginning of the journey, right? And it was not fucking easy either. So like I went on to several other medical issues. I went on to
everybody thinks like once you have this thing, like, oh, everything got better. No,
God's like, hey, I'm here, but guess what? You still got to walk a little bit, and you're gonna stub some toes, bro. You know.
For those who have not, everything will be taken from them, and that's a lesson on gratitude.
Yeah.
Really. For those who have, everything will be.
Dude, and let me just say this, okay? Whether you believe in God or not, you know, and everybody could debate, and we could talk about the big boom, but why not? Why not just be fucking cool to everybody?
Yeah.
Be nice. Like, whether you want to admit that you're religious, read the Bible as a book, you know, consider it the Odyssey or whatever. You know, I'm probably speaking blasphemy now for other believers who are going to get pissed at me saying that, you know, the Bible is the word of God. I do believe that. But to people who don't believe that, I still think you could get some good stories from it.
Well, I tell people all the time, like, it's known that I don't believe in God. You know, I'm not a religious person. I don't believe in God. I believe in conscience. I believe in us actually being the drivers of what we desire. You know,
but who gives a fuck what you believe in?
And that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, you know, I believe what I believe, but I don't look at other people who believe in God or are very religious, and I don't go, idiots, you guys are stupid. I don't do shit like that, right? I'm respectful, because if it makes you feel like you have hope, that's literally what I do. You know, I help people find hope. And if God is their version of hope, fucking great. That makes me happy, right. You know?
Yeah. No, and that, I mean, it's...
You got something you want to say?
To each their own.
Come here.
Do you want to get some deep?
Here, Josh, take over for me for a few minutes. Do it.
I gotta pee. Can you get through? Do you need me to move?
I'm gonna go. I'm smaller. Oh, not that small.
You guys like my short shorts?
How's that?
You guys go.
Does adding this make it better?
You just need to hear this song.
Yeah, so you're about to go deep, I think.
Oh, yeah, that's all I can do.
Yeah.
So the way I think about it is, I don't want to get into too much religion.
Why not?
Like,
I'm okay with it.
It used to turn me off just by if anybody said anything about the Bible. I was like, that's one of those things. If anybody said anything,
it's the reverse part. Like Nick was just talking about how, like, you know, he doesn't care what anybody does. I still do, right? Everybody's judgmental.
Yeah.
At some point, right? Yeah. So, and that's one of the things that I'm trying not to do is just rather than being like, oh, that's annoying, is, I wonder why they think that way.
Exactly. Right.
And I'm 40 years old, and you know, if it takes everybody till the time they're 40 to get to the point where they can have that thought, it's going to take a really, really long time for everybody to be. But it's like the reverse annoyance, like that person's too religious, or they're making it into something that it isn't. But at the same time, you know, what they're doing is practicing something the way that they interpret it.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to practice the way you interpret it and have conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So you can continue to do learning and see what other people are thinking about. So, like, I don't know. I think the Bible says that you're supposed to talk about it. Anytime there's more than one person, you're supposed to have, if
any two should agree on earth.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I'm the worst. Like, so with the ADHD, like when I go to talk to people about religion, I feel like such a piece of shit because I cannot remember anything. I can't even quote myself and feel like I said it right, even if it's a brand new quote.
Yeah, I get like that.
You know what
I
mean?
I don't want anybody to be like, oh wait,
right.
You didn't say it like that.
Yeah.
Oh shit, I didn't. The intent was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, is like, this is the way I look at everybody when I'm
That's the way you look at everyone?
Yes. No, but when I'm in my good, like when I'm not on the spiral, is everybody is literally, let's say I was born in their family and I grew up the way they grew up. I lived where they lived. Then all of a sudden I'm doing everything that they were doing. I can't judge them because the only difference is I'm not in their body. But I grew up, and it gets deeper because in the Bible, God says to Moses, you know, he says, whom shall I say has sent me? And he said, I am has sent you. And I can't, it gets me emotional. But everybody is I am. I am Josh.
Yeah.
It's in the language.
Right.
So at the very core of everybody, like you said, is everybody just wants to be happy. Everybody just wants to feel that connection. And just everybody just does it their own way. And if they're not doing that, that's just because they're not letting themselves do it.
Yeah. So
you can't hate them for it.
Right. Kind of a funny story that made me think about that somebody just told me this weekend. And it's a little extreme. Probably not your style, but so this guy is a veteran. He's older than I am. And he's I don't even want to say believer. He believes in God. I hate when people say believers and non-believers because I don't know. Just why don't we add one more label to shit to separate people, right?
Here,
so
you do this.
I'll sit here.
All right.
You know, this guy is somebody who does believe in God. He is very pro Second Amendment too, and he was telling me about a story. He was sitting with somebody and they were talking about God, and this guy's like, I will change your mind on God in 5 minutes. And he said, I'll change your mind on God in 30 seconds. And the guy goes, no way. And he said, I bet you I can get you to say, oh God, and, you know, look for help from God quickly. And he's like, no way. And he goes, I stood up, cocked my gun and put it on the side of his head.
Damn.
He said, I'm going to blow your fucking brains out. He said, God, no. And he said, I told you I'd make you a believer. And he put his gun back and sat down. Right.
That's
but like,
so crazy.
But like
Fight Club.
why is that the first thing that people yell to? Why does everybody say, God damn it?
That's
why
a trained response.
Well, yeah, but is it also because at the very depth of everything, it's part of you? Maybe.
I think that the awareness of something other than you, that's why I asked you that question, is because in 2015, I've thought about killing myself a lot. Yeah. So in 2015, it's starting to be.
Hey, I'm glad to hear, buddy.
Thanks, man.
You too.
2015, I was driving and I really just wanted to drive off the road, and I was losing my shit, and I said to myself, I can't live with myself. And then I'm big on language, so I instantly got chills, and I was like, I can't live with myself. That implies two different people. So who am I talking about? Who is the I?
Yeah.
And who is myself?
Right.
And
That's probably the more important question.
And this is crazy because I actually just started reading this book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and I couldn't finish it because it was just horrible delivery. But he opened the book with that exact thing.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this freaking enlightened being man, which I don't really agree with, but he started that off. I'm like, there must be something there there's a thread that you pull on with, and that's why I really like when Nick talks about identity, because I think that's all it is.
Right.
Is who you believe you are in relation to your place in the world.
Or who do you want to work to be? You know, like
Exactly.
maybe we all need to set more goals for ourselves and not say who am I, but who am I willing to work to become that I'll be happy with? Because like that's where you know, when I have shared with people that I've become religious, like I don't know how much you know about, way more than I do probably from already what you've been able to quote, but like I do kind of identify with Paul or Saul from the Bible. Not that I went around killing Christians, but I maybe verbally, you know, I feel like anybody who told me they were a believer, I wanted to have that debate and be that guy to like make you question yourself, right? And now it's like, why do I want people to question what makes them feel good? You
That's
know, like
what I'm saying.
And so then why was I ever in that position to even think to do that to someone? And it's because it was a learned behavior, right? So it's from people stepping on what you have had to say over the years. And then to go a little bit deeper, like, again, I don't know how many times I've mentioned I'm 40. I'm clearly having a midlife crisis sitting with you young people today. But like, if I used to think 40 was old, man, and I think it's a halfway point again. And I just like,
I didn't think I'd live this long.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like we're in a position now where I think we're all still children on the grand scheme of things, right?
Dude,
so if you
everybody's a
take
kid.
what we've learned and where we're at and what we're trying to become, it's like everybody's got so much time to be able to make some course corrections.
So we had another text in, and this one says, I equals consciousness, myself equals ego.
Makes a lot more sense when you plug those into the equation.
Yeah.
Who said
It's weird. It's kind of...
Who said that? Do you want to fight?
No, I'm just kidding. Every time, at least once a fucking podcast. So StreamYard has an issue with 4 mics for some reason. So 1 and 2 is always usually good, even though everything works on my other recording equipment. For some reason, StreamYard has an issue with having more than 2 mics. It's fucking annoying. Otherwise, I would have another mic. Sometimes we just record on like Acoustica Mixcraft just because it's just audio, but it's more fun this way. So
thanks for telling me all that. But I didn't listen to anything you just said. What I was thinking about the whole time is how I'm surprised we haven't wrestled yet. I know.
I don't want to hurt you again.
I have I slid into third base with shorts on like 2 weeks ago, and I'm still healing.
Did you really?
Yeah, I don't want to tear that open again.
So. Yeah, you did that once when we were all playing together, and
I do it all the time.
I sucked at softball. Always have, and probably always will. But I hit the last time I was playing in a league, I was actually hitting singles every time. Like I think I was like 100% for singles. Yeah, it's like okay, well I can't hit it out of the park, but I can get on base every time.
This has been kind of like this so far. This spring has been kind of like a dream come true because I've coached Izzy for her whole life since she was 4 years old, and she turned 18 and she's on a co-ed team with me. So they've put us back to back in the order a couple of times, and we've been able to get like back-to-back father-daughter hits, which is just super cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I got Nadine coming to jiu-jitsu with me. She's pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Surprisingly good. If she actually, obviously it's up to me because I got to get her there, but try to get her at least twice a week. Because Tuesdays and Thursdays are big kids.
Yeah.
And then Wednesday, she's bigger than most of the females. So she comes to the adult class on Wednesdays and rolls with females. Nice. So she's surprisingly good. But the cool thing is, man, like sharing, it's the same situation. Sharing the mat with my daughter, dude. Like, I still remember holding her. Like a video popped up on my Facebook the other day from like when she was 2. maybe 3, doing a fucking armbar on me.
Yep.
You know, I'm like, this is so cool. Like,
and what is there any negative to? There's no negative to that.
Mm-mm,
you know,
none.
But
and that's why when she tells me like, well, I don't know if I want to go tonight because she doesn't like cardio. I'm like, okay, you're going. And then usually by the time we're done, she's laughing and giggling and shit.
Right.
I'm like, okay, there you go.
Right.
Fathers and mothers, stop fucking giving in to your kid just because they say they don't want to do something. Make them do things. That's what being a parent is all about.
I don't know. That's a tough one though, because the make thing, like, I would say make them.
I think it depends on the situation.
Yeah, make them understand the pros and cons of the scenario and help them make a good decision. I would say, because I did do the make approach with my kids early on, where it's just like my dad said it to me: "Do as I say, not as I do," and then that means that in your head you say "fuck you" to your parent. Anytime they say that to you, do as I say, not as I do. In your head, you say "fuck off," right? And I'm gonna go do it anyway, probably more destructively to just teach you a lesson, right? Because this is my fucking house.
How dare you?
Right. But like, you know, I've learned that a lot with my kids too, and it's like, again, you know, this is just my deep thinking. Lots of time alone, right? Lots of journaling. But it's like, why are they not wanting to go?
Yeah.
Why are they doing this?
And that's what I do with
Nadine.
Nadine. You know, like I dig in, like, what's the reason, right? And if I find out it's just because she doesn't like the cardio, but she loves everything else, I would see myself as a failure as a parent to not help push your kid through. Because if they wanted to eat they had dilly bars for breakfast yesterday. It wasn't at my house, but let's just say they got dropped off by somebody who bought them fucking dilly bars for breakfast, right?
Everything in moderation, though.
For like, breakfast, come on.
Once every couple of months to just be like, hey, you know what? Let's do one dilly bar breakfast a quarter.
No, this is like a typical.
Okay.
Like,
One line of Coke.
Yeah.
Just one line of Coke.
Yeah. If we're doing like a dilly bar Happy Meal every morning, that's an issue.
If it's just consistent bad choices with stuff. But kids will literally eat pancakes and syrup and bullshit every single day if you let them. But you have to make sure that they understand why nutrition is important, why jujitsu is actually, you know, worth going to and actually taking the time to dedicate to, right?
But what letter grade? What letter grade do we give ourselves as parents, though, on always taking the time and being consistent?
Oh, she's sitting here fucking staring at me because she heard me say her name. Do you want to come talk about jujitsu real quick? And there she goes.
But that's like, so that's one of the things that's super important to me is parenting, right? Like that's when I was in the hospital, and I even apologized to Liz for this, but I was like, I did not put much time and effort into feeling sorry for myself other than the fact that I knew I was not done being a dad. And I was about to have it taken away from me, you know? So that has shifted everything with how I have approached my kids and talked to them in the last 2 years. Like we talked about the weight thing earlier, right? I see now Izzy and Jay watching me, seeing me play with Teddy as I'm not going to say physically fit because I'm technically obese, but I would consider myself slightly athletic, you know, but
I've seen you play softball. You can run, man.
Well, yeah,
once you get the train going,
I get called Fred Flintstone quite a bit. But you know, that's my point though, is I had, and I'm gonna call it a luxury. I'm gonna go out and say a luxury. I had the luxury of being involved in watching myself leave. And then I got to come back and I got to look at all the things that I knew I could be better at. And then I had to say, I will not allow myself to negotiate with myself on these 5 items. Parenting is one of them. So I will fucking quit my job over parenting. If my kid needs me and a place says you need to come into work today, you better find somebody else. Because these little motherfuckers that I decided to have and take responsibility for are first place. Yeah. They're tied for first place. And that's the difficulty, right? Of like, we get drawn into what we're supposed to do. Like you guys in the military, I go to work 40, 50 hours a week. You guys go to work for 24 hours a day, right?
Yeah, but that was 10 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, that is true.
But still, like, you know, how long does it take? How long should it take? And going back to the military, but like, has there ever been a case where they've tracked or followed somebody to see a complete, you know, this is your starting point, and then this is where you were out, and this is 25 years down the road yet? you know, like I feel like we've had enough wars and enough stuff to where, like, let's just say it's another company, right? If we're using the military as a company, I think those companies would have to have bell curves in place right now with stats to show that they're continuing to improve on like the human condition and what they're putting back in, right? So like, because here, and does it make sense kind of what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
Corporate companies?
Well, no, like if I'm looking at the military as a company.
Okay, yeah.
Because that's just how my brain works, right? Because it is. You guys are employed by the military. They're your employer.
Their job is to maintain their force size at whatever size is set for those 4 years.
And we're essentially expendable too.
Yeah.
Like we're just a number.
That's well, right. But then again, they're taking a small
they do like to have good retention, but whatever they don't keep in retention, they have to make up with in recruits.
Right.
And they most of the time do.
So let me say this, right? And I want to, you guys, you've met me today. Yeah. You're an empath.
You're not
you
gonna
probably know that I'm not a terrible fucking person.
You're not gonna make us feel bad. So
well, I don't. And I
say what you need to say.
But I've said early on that I love the country. I support our military. I love everybody, right? And I repeat that again. But it's like, if we were to look at this scenario, right? So you have your military and then you have your civilian, right? So it really is two separate tracks.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we were to look at that as a species, right? So let's say we take this military, which is a much smaller percentage of the species.
It's actually an exact cross section of the species. We have everybody in the military. So.
Well, okay. So, but what I'm saying is like, you're almost your own species as soldiers. Yeah. So like once you guys are in, let's call it indoctrinated, whatever, you're in, you're trained, you're ready to go.
I do think indoctrinated is probably the best explanation.
But then you're dropped when you're done or set free, right? So like you take, it's like putting a wild animal into a zoo, right? So let's say you take a wild animal, let's say you take a wild tiger and put it in with the tigers at the Como Zoo, something's not going to be okay, right? Because you're taking this wild animal and you're putting it in with something that's tame, that doesn't know how to fight, that doesn't know how to deal with it, that they could be a different species.
Yeah.
So if you take that viewpoint, I'm just asking if you guys put some thought on that. Do you think that could almost be a comparison of how you guys feel this like ends up?
Yeah. So I think what you said that actually makes sense is you're either set free or you're dropped, right? I think there's that is the two mentalities that I tend to see the most often, right? I'm free, right? I can go live, I can go do all these amazing things, or my life is over, right? And so in a lot of,
or what if you hold both of them at the same time?
Yeah, and it can be like that too. And there's a lot of times during some of my speeches, I talk about like the 4 life cycles, right? You know, you got 1 to 25, 26 to 50, 51 to 75, and then 76 to death, right? Most veterans get out of the military at the end of their first life, right? Their first life cycle. It's 25 years old. The biggest thing they've ever done was join the military, right? And now that is like the peak of their life at that moment, right? But what they think is like, that was it. And they're starting their second life cycle looking backwards at their old life. And they're trying to fill all those gaps. Like there's like the fucking roads on 35, right? It's never going to happen. You can't fill those holes. You need to stop, and you need to actually realize that was then. And only until you realize and you accept your past, like I said, I was writing about this yesterday for the Warrior, the book I'm writing. You cannot properly continue on in life or start your second life cycle until you've closed that chapter in that last life, right? And then when it can be, you can change that to whatever you want, right? So like with you, right, with what you went through. How old are you now?
40.
You're 40. So you're 40 years old. Midway.
He's only said it 50 times.
I don't listen when you talk. Come on.
I know.
But no, you think about it like this. Like that was the end of one of your life cycles, right? It may not have been the typical one I talk about, but think about it like this. Everything else before that, it's done. Everything, right? Yeah. You essentially were given a chance to create whatever the fuck you want, right? And so essentially what I do with WNA is help people realize their potential and know that, hey, I can literally be and do whatever I desire, as long as you actually set a path, you manifest what you want, and you can move to those next steps. But it's not going to work properly, right? Makes sense with some of the issues that you've been having, especially with the suicidal thoughts and a couple other things, is because have you really truly processed everything from the past? And it doesn't need to be everything in order to move on, but the big things, right? That big trauma of knowing, like, when you broke down earlier talking about, like, you felt like you quit.
Yeah.
You said you haven't said that out loud, really.
Right.
That's a major hole filled.
Right.
Because
I go around I take pride in telling people that I'm too stupid to quit. I've always been too stupid to quit. And that makes me feel good when I even say that. Like, you're just not going to see it.
Well, the beautiful thing is, man, is like you've actually taken that, right? I tell a lot of veterans that life cycle change for us is getting out of the military. You can take that as a tragedy, as if, like, I'm done. I have no brotherhood. I have no camaraderie. I have no purpose. I have no adventure. I have nothing anymore, right? Which a lot of us feel.
Right.
Or you could take the other approach. I'm fucking free. Right. How many veterans? There's so many veteran entrepreneurs out there. Like there's the group called Vetrepreneurs. It's veteran entrepreneurs, and it's just I know it's kind of gay, but there's a shitload of veterans out there that have started amazing businesses. I'm about to be a fucking author. I've wanted to do that for so long, and finally, I'm just like, it's not going to happen unless I just fucking make it happen.
Right.
We need to look and realize, like, we can be a victim of our past, or we can take all of that shit and just accept the fact that shit happened. I don't want it to happen again.
Beyond that, as this is where I'm getting, because I watch myself do it.
Like, swing your mic away or over there for him. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Like I said, we got to work with StreamYard and figure out what's going on with not having more than one mic, but go ahead.
Was it in?
We could even do this here.
Yeah, here.
Come over here. Scoot the chair over. Josh, you sit on the ball. There you go.
Balls.
There you go.
I'm not a yoga ball kind of guy.
Sometimes you gotta, adapt and overcome. You know what I'm saying? We'll get the third mic situation figured out here in a few days.
Trying not to make the mistake of doing something in spite of something else or because of the past.
Yeah.
Because that's literally keeping the past alive. Like, that's why I'm like, oh, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do? Like, how is that supposed to, because I know I'm like, I need to start displaying my values, living them and all that stuff like that. But then I'm like, am I doing that because I'm still ashamed that I didn't before?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I'm
at. And that's a paradox that you put yourself in. You need
to
fucking stop that, right? So, and how many times since we started hanging out have I told you that I see a fucking hero inside you, and you're gonna see it eventually, but I don't give a shit, and you don't have a choice, and I'm gonna keep pushing you until you find that fucking person, right? I already see it. It's just a matter of time until you do, and I didn't have somebody to help me through my bullshit. I had to do the research and get through it my fucking self. A lot of that was my fault because I secluded myself. I pushed everybody away, and I literally did everything. Get away from me. I'm not healthy, and then eventually it got to the point where, like, I don't want to be like that anymore. And when I started working on myself, especially when I started digging into Buddhism, we're all connected. And if you're trying to do shit on your own, you are not going to excel the way that you can. You will never reach your maximum potential if you try to do it on your own. Right. And so that's what I'm trying to provide with Warriors Next Adventure is, like, we will be here for you. And that's why we've started 12 nonprofits, 6 corporations, and 2 LLCs ever since we started.
Well, besides Kurt Cobain, how many suicides happen with more than one person in the room?
That
and
wasn't
Jeffrey
suicide.
Epstein,
that wasn't suicide.
Right. That's my point. Right.
Yeah.
So, like, if you think about that and you think about the togetherness, it's like the moments of despair come from being alone.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's like the hardest part too, is when you start seeing the self-isolation is when, people need to start showing up and checking in regardless of whether that person asked for it, because they need it and they do want it.
I've gone over to people's houses and they're like, dude, you need to fucking leave. I'm like, fuck you. And I sit down. What are you gonna do? You gonna carry me out? No, you're not, because you're a little bitch.
Well, there's so many people that I've, like, talked to, and they're like, I had no idea that you were dying, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, because I was fucking doing it alone. Like, I don't want to celebrate the fact that I'm too big of a pussy to try to fight through something. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to broadcast that. So when you have somebody who is, typically outgoing or out in public and they disappear, just show up. Just go over there.
Go to their fucking house, show up. And a lot of, like I said, with me quitting jiu-jitsu in 2015 when I was going through my spiral, I essentially cut the only thing that was making me happy because I knew it would get me down to that next level.
Because you didn't deserve it.
Yeah. I wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
It to myself,
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing is, like, once you start to have those realizations, like, you know what? I do fucking deserve better, right? Maybe not right now because I was a piece of shit. I don't deserve better now, but the future me deserves so much fucking better. And the only way the future me turns in, like I turn into the future me, is to start walking the walk and living the way I want to live, right? I started calling myself an author a year ago. I haven't fucking finished my book, but if you're not it, how are you going to be it? Right? So just do it and say, this is who I am. This is what I'm going to do. I said 2 years ago, I said in the next 3 years, the Air Force is going to be paying me to speak. I did in 2. It's start saying what you are. There's a quote written on that board over there is live as if the future is today. You have to do that, right? I'm happy, right? Self-care and self-talk are 2 of the most important things in the fucking world. If you're not taking care of yourself and you're not actually taking the time to do the things for you that you need, and you're not talking good about yourself, you say, oh, I'm a fucking dumbass. I'm a dumbass, right? I want to say one thing. I got called out on that once. The intent is important, right? If you're doing it self-deprecation for comedy purpose, that's one thing. However, if you're constantly doing it, you beat a dog long enough, you say it's a bad dog, it's going to turn into a fucking bad dog. So we need to start talking positively about ourselves too, right? When we get together with friends and we talk shit to each other, it's fun. It's goofy, but there's always a point where you need to realize, like, you need to look at your best friends and you say, hey, I'm fucking proud of you, right? The one thing that I get from veterans, right? And I'm not bragging about myself, but it's something I've observed. Every time I tell a veteran I'm proud of you, they fucking smile and they look down and, like, they don't want it. They want it, but they don't want to hear it, right?
So you don't like seeing an assassin blush? Well, I mean, like,
pretty much, yeah.
Like, hey,
no, the thing is, like, they hear those words, hey, I'm fucking proud of you, right? Because I have the title CEO, which is weird, which is why I like hanging out with you and Josh now too. Like, it was a little weird at first just because, I'm the owner of the company and shit, but the more and more I hang out with people I'm very close to, they don't treat me like I'm just a person. I'm just a guy. Like, he knows that. I'm just a dude who fucking loves helping people and I want to live my life, but we need to start looking at each other at, like, friends, family, brothers, whatever. Tell somebody that you're proud of them. I don't give a shit if you think like they're not trying hard enough, but, like, look at them and be like, you know what, who you are, where you are right now, and who you're going to be. I'm proud of you. Those words can fucking greatly sway somebody's mental health, because all we want when we're children is to hear from our fathers, I'm proud of you, right? There's a book out there called Wild at Heart, and it talks about the emotional scars left by fathers. It's focused on men. There's another one for women too. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah,
but
John and Stacey Eldridge are the authors.
Yeah. I can't remember what the women's one is, but John Eldridge talks about, like, all we want is for our dads to look at us and go, you're a wild man. Like, you're, saying essentially you're a man. I'm proud of you, right? And so I tend to take, and I'm only saying this because many, many, many veterans have told me this. Like, I take on a father figure for a lot of these guys, even though some of them are older than me, which is weird. But when I look at them and I stare them square in their fucking eyes and I say, I'm fucking proud of you. I'm so proud of who you are now, right? But I'm more proud of who you're going to be because I see it. And you can do whatever you want, right? Once that door's fucking open, we're unstoppable.
Well, and that's, I listened to a lot of John Eldridge, and that was part of my, part of my religious journey. I had a lot to do with John Eldridge and his book called Beautiful Outlaw. I don't know if you've read that one or not, but it's we talked a little bit early on about how, like, the religious part of religion is kind of like what deterred some of us from even being open to
the organization of it all.
John Eldridge is very Christian, and he's very confident in his beliefs, the way that he writes and the way this book, Beautiful Outlaw, is written. If anybody's like questioning it, I would tell you to do it. It's a great listen to. I can't read books.
Yeah,
I listen to Audible too.
My eyes go crossed within like 4 words. Yeah. Dude, I'll listen to him like 4 or 5 times if it's a good one. And John Eldridge's voice too is perfect. Because there's some Audible books that I have to do the sample, and I won't even buy the book if it's good content if I can't handle the voice. But anyway, Beautiful Outlaw is this book that is about just the character of Jesus. So he's like, let's consider that Jesus and his apostles were a group of friends that were out fishing the day they were out fishing. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, is there anything that seems ridiculously religious when you get a group of guys together fishing?
No.
There's not a fucking chance.
No, just bullshit and talking shit.
They're probably talking about that Samaritan chick at the well. Yeah. See that chick with the short robe at the well, guys?
You see her ankles?
They probably didn't do that. That was blasphemous. I'm sorry. Anyway, but like, you know, but when you think about everything that you've thought about religion or the Bible, and then you reconsider it from a place with a different perspective and a different personality, or maybe some humor, right? Or maybe like not everything Jesus said had to be serious. He could have been talking shit sometimes and making.
Yeah. What if he was just going, man,
dude, like half the time, like when, like what I took away from most of the parables is how like the guy Jesus walked around like rolling his eyes like, you guys are just the most dense group of dudes ever. Because like every time he said a parable to him, they never understood it. And he's just like, here we go again.
The thing is whatever perspective that you
whatever
perspective that you decide is true for you.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah, perception is reality. You know that.
You.
Yeah, exactly.
Until we share it.
And that's where, going back to the beginning of our
perspective on somebody else's character that you didn't know that you're making, you know, your decisions based on. So like I think the moral of that is to just having the openness to just, you know, being willing to look at the different variables to consider.
I think that's why we go back to the beginning of our conversation, and instead of having assumptions about other people, just because you have essentially all we have is a perspective and an assumption on a situation until we sit down with the person involved in that and actually talk about it and get deeper into it, right? So like, yeah, gather information and just do your best to know as much as you can about the situation before you make a judgment, right? I tell everybody, like, you know, if it doesn't directly concern you, why do you care? Yeah. Why does it matter? You know, and I tell people all the time, quit watching the news. Yeah.
Right.
One of the first things you can do for your mental health is stop watching the fucking news. What reason do you have to watch the news? Some people like to know what's going on, but when is the last time you watched the news and you're just like, God, I feel good? Doesn't happen. Right. And yeah, it's nice to know what's going on in the world and everything like that. But at the same time, is it productive for you? Right. I say focus on what's going on around you. Right. I have the greatest neighbors. They don't fucking talk to me. Yes, I win. Right. I don't. It's not that I'm antisocial. When I'm at home, this is my home. I want to be alone, you know, or with my family and just relax, right? Unless I invite friends over, I don't want to be interrupted. I don't want people coming over like, hey, your grass is too high. Fuck off, right? Get away from me. Which it doesn't, because my girlfriend actually is the one who mows my lawn because she just can't. Fuck you. No, dude, she just.
No, I'm
no, she just takes care of it, you know, and like she sees a couple things that like I don't always have time to do a lot of the little stuff because I'm so fucking busy, and she's so supportive of what I do.
You mean you guys are a good team and you fucking go off of each other?
Yeah.
One person's deficient, you make up with the other person.
I know, right?
How crazy of an idea is that?
I know, like a partner. It's weird. Yeah. No, we've been together for 3 years too. Like, and she has seen the best version of me every fucking day, you know, because when we met, it was in 2019. It was a couple months into me starting the nonprofit, and I started just living as if the future is today. And so I had to explain to her where I came from there, you know, and it's like, you know, when I talk about what we do, it may not be happening now, but it's going to. And everything that I talked about, it happened. Everything I told her is going to happen came to fruition. I failed a lot. Like my gala, I had 160 tickets available. I sold 20 and only 19 showed up. Like, I felt like a fucking failure. I'm like, shit, listen, I'm not a failure. Tonight was a failure. It did not go the way I wanted it. I didn't make the funds that I wanted. I didn't get the result I wanted. So there was a failure. But that does not make me a failure, and it doesn't mean I'm going to fucking quit. I hate people that come up to you like, oh, it wasn't a failure. Like, stop it. Failure's fucking okay. Everybody needs to listen to this. It's okay to fucking fail.
Failure's not final.
Exactly. You're only a failure if you never fucking continue. And the thing that drives me nuts is when people try to tell me like, oh, it's not a failure. It was, right? But look what I did with that failure, right? I turned around my first year, and in 9 months, I raised $18,000. My second year, 27. And then the next year, I just found out I raised $58,000 last year, which I was shocked. You saw how much shit we did? Like I was blown away. I could not believe like all of the things that we've done last year, and we only raised 50-some thousand. Like, I can stretch a penny. It's good having a guy who will run an organization that grew up poor, man.
Yeah.
Well, hey, let's wrap this up. Dude, thanks for coming, man.
Yeah,
it was good chatting with you.
Yeah. Nice
We'll be there on Friday at your daughter's graduation party.
Yeah.
I still remember babysitting her in her fucking diapers. Dude, that kid was slamming Jimmy John sandwiches like in like a 2-year-old, and she was just like that, and she would just womp. I've never seen a kid eat.
She still wants Jimmy John's all the time.
But anyway, I'm excited to see Izzy and everybody else. But yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing everything too, man.
If you're
just
not doing anything Friday too, you're welcome. Come on out.
Dude, his parties are always fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have any last words?
Great.
Speaking of the mic.
Hey, any last words? I'd say ain't nothing to it but to do it. So, like really, I mean,
and not today, Satan.
Nick, you're doing it, right? So, like early on when you said you were gonna do this stuff, we're like, okay, let's see what he does. Here we go.
Yeah.
Right. And
that's the majority of the people close
that's
to me.
part of like the anxiety, I think, that comes with people that are getting into this. And we started out talking about a podcast, but you're doing it. And you did a podcast about a podcast for helping other people. And I think at the end of the day, you're not going to be happy unless you do shit. That shit could be stuff you want. Shit could be the stuff you need to do.
Yeah.
But you're going to find happiness in that. So there's no happiness in nothing, isolation or being alone. You got to get up and do shit, whether that's taking a half-hour walk, a 5-minute walk, or a walk to somebody else. Go walk to your neighbor's house and knock on the door and tell them their grass is too tall, even if it's not. You know what I mean? Like,
don't do it at my house. I got shotguns.
I mean, the key is to not be alone, and if that means you got to go fuck with somebody in a nice way, it's all intent, right? Yeah. So as long as you meant it from a good spot. But anyway, thanks for having me.
Of course.
All you veterans out there, love you guys. Thank you so much, and hopefully I'll be back again, or we'll do this again.
Yeah, for sure. Josh, you got anything? No. Josh is done. Bullshit. Bye. All right, guys. Go check out Rise and Warrior. You can go to Rise and Warrior, and then you go into their products. You click down. You get this WNA brand, blend salted caramel. Like I said, I don't sponsor products unless I think they're great. Like Cedar Inn sponsored our race cars. They say they had the best wings in the metro. I'm like, okay. So we went down there, and holy shit, they're amazing. Not only are they great, that they're huge, right? But anyway, I wasn't supposed to talk about them. I really want wings right now. But Rise and Warrior, the salted caramel coffee is fucking fantastic. I use French vanilla creamer because I'm a bitch, but it's fucking fantastic. So go check it out, go buy it. And also thank you to St. Croix Custom Furniture for purchasing a lot of our equipment. And again, we'll figure out what's going on with StreamYard with the extra microphones. We can only use 2 for some reason. It drives me nuts. So I'll get that figured out. We'll be back soon. This will be on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Apple's, Android store, whatever, here in the next couple days or whenever I decide to do it. So thanks, guys, for listening. Go check out warriorsnextadventure.com. You can go click on the donate button to donate to us for all the stuff that we do. This podcast, it costs $30 a month. That's really about it. Well, 60 because we got to do Libsyn too. So like I do my best to try to at least get $60 a month for the for the podcast alone. Or I just end up paying for myself. But we don't need a ton of donations to do all the stuff that we do, but it really does help. And the more donations we have, the more veterans we can reach and the more fun we can have. So,
Mike is the one that started the issue about 3 mics.
Yeah.
Get back to work, Mike.
All right. Well, I love you guys. We'll talk soon. Goodbye.